Chapter 1153. Blazing Hood did want to go to the prison of darkness and prison of soul, because he was familiar with those places. Luli must have never been there. If Luli could keep up with him, he might go to the prison of thunder and let Luli be blasted to death by thunderbolts. The 10 heavens of the purgatory of primal chaos were fire, wood, earth, water, metal, ice, wind, darkness, soul, and lightning. The first 5 levels were not dangerous. As long as one reached the peak of the Renhuang realm, they could go anywhere they wanted. The prison of ice and the prison of wind were much more dangerous, but a peak earthly immortal could still travel easily, as long as they didn't enter a particularly dangerous place, like the heavenly wind abyss that they were currently in. Luli had been in the wicked bead all this time, so he did not know the dangers of the wind's valley. The wind here was particularly strong. Average semi-god realm warriors would not be able to leave here for the rest of their lives, if not die immediately. There was a huge wind whirlpool in the heavenly wind abyss. It was easy to enter, but difficult to leave. Without reaching the soul formation pinnacle stage or possessing some special means, it would be almost impossible for them to survive the gale. There were many other dangerous places in the prison of wind that Luli did not know about. As for the dark prison and the soul prison, they were even more dangerous. Not to mention the thunder prison. Even he wouldn't be able to last half a day at the periphery of the thunder prison. Not to mention going to the center, he would be killed instantly. One should know that he was ranked second among the purgatory's 10 elders. He was one of the most powerful cultivators in the 9 realms and the purgatory of primordial chaos. If ordinary peak divine transformation realm cultivators went to the thunder prison, they might be killed as soon as they entered. Every level of the purgatory of primal chaos had a towering mountain. This name was not randomly chosen. It was truly a towering mountain. If anyone could pass through the central region of a lightning prison and enter the sky-piercing mountain, they would be able to enter the divine world directly. In the history of the 9 realms, there were many God-state experts who eventually ascended from the Thunder Prison's heavenly mountain. That sky-piercing mountain's sky-piercing path was connected to the God realm, a place that billions of martial artists yearned for. Whoosh! Blazing was shot out from the Tianfeng abyss. Flames appeared under his feet. The flames instantly expanded and turned into a fiery cloud. The strong counterforce made Blazing Hua's speed soar, surpassing the immortal's corpse. A stove flew out from his hand. Flames poured out and spread out above the wind abyss, forming a wall of fire, trying to stop Lu Li and the others from coming up. The stove was a quasi-relic that Blazing Hua had refined. After the immortal's body broke through the encirclement, Blazing Hua took the stove back. It was the perfect time to use it. Sizzle. Unfortunately, he thought too much. A blood-red saber radiance whizzed up from the wind abyss and easily broke his flames. The power of Shadi's killer move was astonishing. This small firewall could not withstand it. Xiao. After the Slayer's move was released, Lu Li went into the wicked bead at once. He rode on the bead and went after Blazing Hua. Blazing Hua was fast, but he was only faster than the immortal's body in 1 moment. On average, Blazing Hua's speed was about the same as the immortal's body. Compared to the wicked bead, Blazing Hua was much slower. In a time for a few breaths, Lu Li had caught up with Blazing Hua. Lu Li dashed to the front of Blazing Hua and swung his saber. Once the Slayer's killer move was activated, Blazing Hua could not move his body. The world in front of him was occupied by blood. He could only release the black flames to protect his body immediately. Buzz! When Lu Li came out, the wicked bead glowed again. The Deaf Taoist and the immortal's body came out at the same time. The Deaf Taoist and the immortal's body dashed toward Blazing Hua, one on the left and the other on the right. This was the strategy Lu Li had just come up with. He wanted to see if he could kill Blazing Hua before he could react. Bang! Blazing Hua was smashed away. He had left that world of blood. He heard screams coming from both sides and sensed the presence of the immortal's body and the Deaf Taoist. Without hesitation, flames burst out from his body. The flames swelled as if a huge explosion had taken place. A surge of shock waves spread out in space, forcing the Deaf Taoist and the immortal's body to step back. Swish, swish, a pair of gloves appeared on Blazing Hua's hands. He tore apart the void and disappeared into it. What? Luli frowned. He pulled a long face. He asked the deaf Taoist and the immortal's body to work together to kill Blazing Hua, but the latter just disappeared into a crack in space. Whoosh! The deaf Taoist flew over and said to Luli, "Lord, don't worry. The space in the prison of wind is unstable." Blazing Hua had no other choice but to teleport. Also, he cannot teleport too far. We will go after him. Okay. Luli asked the deaf Taoist to transform back into a human and put him and the immortal's body into the wicked bead. Then, Luli flew away with the wicked bead. As soon as Luli left, a man crawled out from the ground. It was Lu Feng. Lu Feng had a clear understanding of the situation just now, and a hint of sorrow appeared on his face. Blazing Hua, the number 2 of the Purgatory's top 10, was being hunted down by Luli. He had to use teleportation. The higher one went in the Purgatory of primordial chaos, the more unstable the space would be. Anyone who dared to use teleportation here might be teleported into a crack in space and never come out again. Blazing Hua had been driven into a dead end. Just now, Lu Feng saw that Luli had smashed Blazing Hua away in one move. Blazing Hua was covered in blood. Blazing Hua did not seem to be seriously injured. On the other hand, Luli was unharmed. Blazing Hua and the other 4 were down to 1. The difference in power was clear. Luli went after Blazing Hua in the wicked bead. He was going to the entrance of the prison of darkness, which was suggested by the deaf Taoist. The deaf Taoist believed that Blazing Hua had nowhere to go other than the prison of darkness and the prison of soul. The deaf Taoist was right. In the time for half an incense stick to burn, Luli had caught up with Blazing Hua. This time, Luli did not let the deaf Taoist and the others out. He released the Slayer's move from behind and smashed Blazing Hua away. The only thing Blazing Hua could rely on was the black flames. Luli wanted to wear out the black flames slowly. He did not believe that the black flames were endless. Therefore, Luli did not want to push Blazing Hua too far. Otherwise, if Blazing Hua teleported to a random direction, it would be troublesome for Luli to track him down. Blazing Hua did not teleport since Luli did not let out the deaf Taoist and the immortal's body. This was not a joke. If he accidentally fell into the turbulence in space, he would never come out again. Luli followed Blazing Hua in the wicked bead and would release the Slayer's move every now and then. Blazing Hua had been running away. Every time, he would rely on the black flames to fend off Luli's attacks. Many warriors were hiding in the prison of wind. Blazing Hua and Luli, one was running away while the other was running, would affect the Xianxi in heaven and earth. Naturally, many warriors were alarmed. Those warriors were frightened to see that Blazing Hua was being chased by a young man covered in blood. Soon, the news spread out. The entire prison of wind was in an uproar. Lu Feng was fond of selling information. He spread what he had seen and learned. Many warriors were dumbfounded when they learned that the young man was Lu Li, who killed Yin Zhen and had the deaf Taoist as a slave. Chapter 1154. They had been chasing after Blazing Hua for 2 days and 3 nights. Luli had lost count of how many times he had attacked Blazing Hua. Blazing Hua had so many black flames. The amount of black flames he had consumed during this period of time was probably enough to fill a space ring with a radius of 10,000 feet, right? He wondered where the old monster's black flames were stored. In the distance, there was a vague mountain range. Luli knew they had arrived at the towering mountain. His heart sank. If he could not defeat Blazing Hua in the prison of wind, it would be even more difficult in the prison of darkness. Luli went into the wicked bead and asked the deaf Taoist, "Deaf Taoist, are you familiar with the prison of darkness?" Cooked. The deaf Taoist could tell that they were about to enter the prison of darkness. He said with a heavy heart, "The prison of darkness is a bit tricky. It is pitch dark and there is no light. It is difficult to track them down. However, it will not be that easy for old Hua to escape. Master, let me out later. I will leave a mark on his body. As long as the mark remains, I will be able to sense him no matter where he goes. All right. Luli was cheered up. He flew the wicked bead over quickly, went around Blazing Hua, and arrived in front of him. Then he and the Deaf Taoist showed up almost at the same time and took actions. Luli used the Slayer's move to subdue Blazing Hua. The Deaf Taoist swung the stone column as well. The iron chain inside the stone column turned into a shadow of a flood dragon and whooshed out. Bang! After the blood-red blade radiance sent Blazing Hua flying, the shadow of the dragon transformed from the iron chain, flashed, and disappeared into Blazing Hua's body. Blazing Hua woke up at this moment. He tore the void apart and entered the crack in space. In the next second, he appeared at the entrance of the sky-piercing mountain. His body shot up like an arrow and soon disappeared on the sky-piercing mountain. Go! Luli waved his hand and flew toward the towering mountain with the Deaf Taoist. When they arrived at the path, Luli clearly felt the gravity was stronger. His speed was slowed down. Sir, I'll bring you along. The Deaf Taoist grabbed Luli's arm and led him up. Soon, they arrived at the top of the towering mountain. With the last step, he felt a white light flash in front of him, and then he entered a completely dark world. So dark, he sighed with emotion. He had heard the rumors about the dark prison. It was said that it was absolutely dark without a trace of light. Even if you took out a fire lighter or a luminous pearl, you could only illuminate a very small area. Luli used psychic power at once. He realized that psychic power was limited here as well. He could only scan an area with a radius of thousands of feet. Which direction? Luli brought the Deaf Taoist into the wicked bead. The Deaf Taoist checked and pointed to the north. North. I think he is trying to escape to the prison of soul. The prison of soul is the most dangerous place. I think he is trying to take you to the prison of soul because your realm is not high. Whoosh, the wicked bead flew on. Not long afterward, Luli felt he bumped into something. He probed with his divine telekinesis and found that there were some bird-sized monsters with long and thin mouths in the space. What is this? Luli described the beast. The Deaf Taoist explained, this is a beast of primordial chaos unique to the prison of darkness, the marrow-sucking mosquitoes. This type of chaos beast looked like a mosquito. That was why it was named this way. These beasts of primordial chaos can be found everywhere in the prison of darkness. Usually, they will attack warriors' heads directly and suck their brains. Master, don't worry. The marrow-sucking mosquitoes cannot crack a relic. But if you only rely on quasi-relics, you will be in danger when there are too many marrow-sucking mosquitoes. Oh, I see. Luli was taken aback. Sucking brains directly? This beast of primordial chaos was vicious. Luli planned ahead and asked, what other horrifying things are there in the prison of darkness? Tell me in detail. Apart from the marrow-sucking mosquitoes, there's only one type of beasts of primordial chaos, the ghost worms. These worms usually lurk in cracks in space, and they will come out from time to launch sneak attacks. The teeth of these worms are so strong that they can bite quasi-relics into pieces. Average semi-god realm warriors who do not have powerful means will be doomed if they encounter the ghost worms. The Deaf Taoist added after a pause, Lord, you have a relic. You will be fine as long as you don't run into a large group of ghost worms. As a matter of fact, the most horrifying thing about the prison of darkness is the naturally formed illusions. It is easy to lose your way here. If you're lost in the illusions and cannot find a way out, you will either die or lose your mind. Luli was taken aback. If he was really trapped in illusions, he would not be able to see anything in the darkness. Maybe he could stay here for a month or two. What if he was trapped here for a year or even decades? If I'm trapped here for a couple of years, maybe I will lose my mind as well. In a place of absolute darkness, there was nothing to be seen. Out of instinct, people would feel terror, powerlessness, and confusion. No matter how strong a person's mind was, he would eventually lose his mind. It was fortunate that Luli brought the Deaf Taoist with him. A warrior of this level must have gone to the prison of darkness often. He must have explored the prison of soul many times as well. Luli asked the Deaf Taoist for confirmation, which was confirmed. Not only did the Deaf Taoist often go to the prison of soul, he had been to the prison of thunder 3 times. Is the prison of thunder as horrifying as people say? Luli asked with curiosity. Going through the prison of thunder meant that he could go to the divinity. Theoretically speaking, the prison of thunder should be horrifying. Yes, the deaf Taoist nodded with lingering fear in the depth of his eyes. After a pause, the deaf Taoist said, "If I am at the peak of my abilities, I might have a chance. Given my current abilities, I can be killed even at the periphery, not to mention the center." That horrifying? Luli was worried. The deaf Taoist's defense was strong after he transformed. If Luli could not survive at the periphery, could Little White survive, given its speed and defense? Little White might not be blasted to death at once. Luli looked at Little White that was sleeping in the corner of the hall. He shook his head after some thoughts. He would think about it when he had the chance to go to the prison of thunder. Maybe Little White was talented enough to survive. Little White had been using thunderbolts to refine its body over the years. It might be resistant to thunderbolts. Lord, Blazing Hua should be up ahead. The deaf Taoist's sudden reminder startled Luli. He tried to check outside through the wicked bead. He heard a noise of someone flying fast. Buzzing. Without any hesitation, he dashed out, swung his relic weapon, and hacked at the space in front of him. Then, he dashed back into the wicked bead. Swish, the blood-red ray of sword light whooshed on. The man in front of Blazing Hua burst into black flames. Blazing Hua did not look at the ray of sword light behind him, but the world in front of him had turned blood-red. Bang! Blazing Hua was sent flying. He immediately soared up into the sky and fled into the distance. I cannot go on like this. I don't have much flames left. When I run out, I will die for sure. Chapter 1155. To the left. The deaf Taoist sensed that Blazing Hua was flying to the left. He frowned and said, "Lord, I think Blazing Hua has gone to the nightmare of darkness." Luli blinked and asked in confusion, "What is the nightmare of darkness? Is it a strange place connected to the prison of darkness?" "No." The deaf Taoist shook his head. "Didn't I say that there are many naturally formed illusions in the prison of darkness? The nightmare of darkness is one of them, and it is one of the most horrifying places in the prison of darkness. Even now, there are at least dozens of semi-god realm warriors sleeping in there. They may never wake up." "What?" Luli yelled in surprise. Patriarchy was shocked as well. 50 semi-god realm warriors were trapped in there? They might never wake up. This place was horrifying. The deaf Taoist explained, in that illusions, people will not be able to tell the difference between dream and reality. They will think they are in a dream. That illusions will not only mislead people's senses, but also their souls. In other words, usually illusions trap people, but that illusions trap people's souls. Impressive. Lu Li and Patriarch Yi were taken aback. Lu Renhuang must be in closed-door cultivation to tend to his wounds. He did not say anything. Lu Li asked, "If Blazing Hua goes to the nightmare of darkness, should we go with him? Will we be affected by the illusions in the wicked bead?" The deaf Taoist smiled. "We don't have to go in. Blazing Hua, do you think I'm not familiar with that place? As a matter of fact, I have been to the nightmare of darkness for more than 10 times. The nightmare of darkness is not large. We will wait outside. I want to see how long Blazing Hua can stay in there." "Okay." The deaf Taoist was familiar with the situation, which boosted Lu Li's confidence. Lu Li went after Blazing Hua in the wicked bead. Soon, he caught up with Blazing Hua. Lu Li dashed out and continued to attack. Blazing Hua knew very well that the deaf Taoist had left a mark on him, and he knew where the mark was. But he could not dissolve it in a short time. The deaf Taoist came from the region of doom. How could an average human be able to dissolve a mark? After 6 hours, Lu Li left with the deaf Taoist. The deaf Taoist checked the surroundings and nodded. "We're almost there. Lord, be careful. Slow down." "All right." Lu Li slowed down the wicked bead and used psychic power to the fullest. At the same time, he used the wicked bead to sense Blazing Hua's presence. He stayed put and followed Blazing Hua. Oh no! Blazing Hua noticed that the wicked bead was slowing down. His heart was weighed down. The deaf Taoist, must have a clear understanding of the situation. Blazing Hua's scheme had been seen through. Luli was only at the initial stage of the semi-god realm. Luli would be fine in the nightmare of darkness, but Luli might be trapped there for the rest of his life. In this way, he could escape easily, and he could even kill Luli. The arrow was knocked on the bowstring. It had to be released. Blazing Hua hesitated for a moment before rushing forward. There was a glimmer of light in front of him. It was blurry and looked illusory. It was strange and blurry. When people came here, they couldn't help but be attracted because it was pitch black inside the dark prison. A faint light suddenly appeared in front of them. Any martial artist who did not know the situation would go forward to investigate. "I see a ray of light," Luli explained to the deaf Taoist in time. The latter shouted at once, "Don't just stare at the light. We are about to reach the nightmare of darkness. Slow down." Luli slowed down the wicked beat again. He did not use psychic power to check the light. Instead, he looked around. Very soon, Luli saw a scene that he would never forget. In a valley in front of him, there was a dim glow. Many warriors were floating in the air, up and down. Many of them were dead. Some were still breathing, but their expressions were ferocious. They seemed to be in pain, but they did not make any sound. 1, 2, 3, 78. Luli did a rough count. There were at least over 100 people floating in the air. There were also some quasi-relics floating in the air, giving off a faint glow. The entire scene made one's hair stand on end, especially those who were still alive. They were in incomparable pain, yet they couldn't make a single sound. It made one's heart palpitate. Nobody took away the quasi-relics? Luli asked in surprise after a while. Then, he added, "Why didn't anyone save those trapped in the illusion?" "No." The deaf Taoist shook his head. "There is a strange force in the nightmare of darkness. Those who are trapped in the nightmare of darkness must rely on their own abilities, or others cannot bring them out. Nobody can move the quasi-relics, or else they would have been taken away." "That is horrifying," Luli exclaimed to himself. He stopped the wicked bead. He could tell that Blazing Hua was going through the floating bodies in a straight line. Luli asked with a frown, "Blazing Hua is in the nightmare of darkness, and he is going forward. What should we do?" "Wait." The deaf Taoist closed his eyes. While he was sensing, he said, "Let's see if Blazing Hua is going to stay in the nightmare of darkness or go out. No matter where he's trying to escape to. I can sense it. Lord, your relic bead is fast. He cannot get away." Luli had to wait. He did not dare to use psychic power too much for fear that he would be chosen into the nightmare of darkness. Though he had the silver dragon to protect his soul, the nightmare of darkness was too strange. It was better to be careful. "What?" The deaf Taoist sensed for a while. All of a sudden, he was taken aback. "Blazing Hua is dissolving the mark I left. He is using the third type of fire. He is fast." Luli was taken aback. If Blazing Hua was allowed to dissolve the mark, he would be able to run away easily in the prison of darkness. By then, Blazing Hua could hide in a small world. Luli could not find Blazing Hua, no matter how many people he sent out. Luli's eyes flickered. After a moment, he said, "How about, after he dissolves the mark, you go out and release another one? Let's see how long he can stay in the nightmare of darkness." "I can't." The deaf Taoist shook his head. "Once he dissolves the mark, he will tear open the void and leave. When he can teleport away, it will be hard to find him." "Then should we attack him? Should we distract him from dissolving the mark?" Luli suggested. Pointing to the immortal's body, he said, "We can let the immortal's body do it. He has no soul, so he will not be affected." "Sure, let's try." The deaf Taoist nodded. "If push comes to shove, I will have to do it." "Lord, do not go out. If you fall into the nightmare of darkness, you will be in big trouble." "Okay." Luli let out the immortal's body. Under Luli's control, the immortal's body dashed toward the group of floating bodies and bodies. The immortal's body landed a punch on Blazing Hua, who was sitting on the ground. Chapter 1156. The immortal's body was not enough. Blazing Hua took out a stove and poured out flames to trap the immortal's body. The immortal's body did not have a soul. All he knew was to dash around. Luli could give commands remotely. However, a fight between powerful warriors could end in an instant. Sometimes, it would be too late for him to give commands. If it were Lu Li or the Deaf Taoist, they would either break the flames or run away as soon as they saw the flames surrounding them. Lu Li explained the situation. The Deaf Taoist had no other choice. He nodded to Lu Li. The wicked bead glowed, and the Deaf Taoist came out. Roar, roar, the Deaf Taoist bellowed into the sky. His robe was torn apart, and he was growing taller and taller at a speed visible to the naked eye. A tail grew out from his back. His face became ferocious as he turned into a human-shaped gorilla. The huge stone pillar appeared in his hand. He roared and dashed forward. Soon, he arrived in front of Blazing Hua and smashed the pillar at Blazing Hua. Ha! Blazing Hua was not surprised at all. He sneered and said, "Deaf Taoist, I've been waiting for you for a long time. Since you dare to come in, then stay here forever." Fire shield, meteoric flames, will-o'-the-wisps. Blazing Hua did not move. While he was using the fire shield, he was also using flames. Among the flames, there were many corpse flames. At the same time, Blazing Hua used a special kind of fire that he did not use before. His body glowed with a blue flame. The flame disappeared in the air as soon as it appeared. The next moment, it appeared near Blazing Hua. The flame was floating. It looked like the face of a ferocious ghost. It was very strange. Bang! The Deaf Taoist stone column smashed into the flame. He was smashed away. Blood oozed out from his mouth. Clearly, he was injured. The Deaf Taoist was in a worse state. Over a dozen balls of will-o'-the-wisps appeared around him, making him scream in pain. The heavenly flames and the 9 heavens netherworld flames that rained down from the sky were too dense. Jiang Yi's body was too big, and he could not dodge them all. 2 balls of 9 heavens netherworld flames landed on him, and his skin and muscles are being burned at a speed visible to the naked eye. If it were just flames, the Deaf Taoist might be hurt. What was worse? This was the nightmare of darkness. The Deaf Taoist was so focused on getting rid of the flames that he forgot about the nightmare of dreams. His eyes gradually became confused. In the end, he finally tore off a few pieces of flesh on his body and shook off the 9 heaven ghost fire, but he seemed to have fallen into a dream prison. His body involuntarily floated up into the air, and his face revealed a hideous expression of pain. His eyes were tightly shut, and not a single sound came out. Oh no! Lu Li's mind was weighed down. It was okay that the Deaf Taoist was in the nightmare of dreams. Given the Deaf Taoist's abilities, he could break free from the nightmare of dreams and wake up. More importantly, Blazing Hua was eyeing the Deaf Taoist. At the moment, the Deaf Taoist was defenseless. If Blazing Hua released some death flames, the Deaf Taoist would be burned into ashes. Let's risk it. Lu Li clenched his teeth and chose to believe in the silver dragon mark. He dashed out from the wicked bead and into the nightmare of dreams. He swung his relic weapon and hacked at Blazing Hua, who was about to attack the Deaf Taoist. Ha! Blazing Hua was not scared when Lu Li dashed in. Instead, he laughed. Blazing Hua hoped that Lu Li would go into the nightmare of dreams. Blazing Hua believed that Lu Li's soul was at the initial stage of the semi-god realm. Blazing Hua could not stand the power of the nightmare of dreams. Eventually, Lu Li would be imprisoned in the nightmare of dreams and die here. Swish! Blazing Hua was suppressed by the force in heaven and earth. In the end, he was smashed away by the blood-red ray of sword light. Soon, Lu Li sensed a surge of mysterious energy surging toward his soul pond. That was an indescribable force. It was not like a soul attack. Instead, it was more like a picture was emerging in his mind. In that picture, he felt everything around him had disappeared. From the distance came some ghosts and phantoms, rushing toward him, trying to tear him into pieces. Piss off! He wanted to swing his relic weapon to attack the phantoms, but he could not move his hands. Many phantoms began to tear his body apart. He was in great pain, but he could not make any sound. He realized that his body and soul were separated. He could not control his body, not even to move a finger. It was a strange and horrifying feeling. Buzzing. Finally, the silver dragon mark glowed, and moved around in Lu Li's soul pond. The strange energy in Lu Li's soul pond was consumed by the silver dragon. Lu Li felt his soul could control his body again. He opened his eyes in delight. He opened his eyes, only to be horrified. He realized that his body was floating just like the other bodies and corpses floating in the air. If it were not for the silver dragon mark, he would not be able to wake up for the rest of his life. What? How is that possible? Blazing Hua, who was flying over from the distance, saw that Lu Li opened his eyes. He was as if he had seen a ghost. He clearly saw Lu Li floating up. Clearly, he was in a nightmare of dreams. How come Lu Li had woken up so soon? This was just too unbelievable. A genius could be very powerful at a young age, but it was impossible for his soul to be strengthened so quickly. Even if he were to take the best elixirs every day, he was still too young. How strong could his soul be after decades? How could he compare with those warriors that had lived for hundreds or thousands of years? Charge! Lu Li came back to his senses. Without any hesitation, he hacked at Blazing Hua again. He could not let Blazing Hua get close. Otherwise, the Deaf Taoist would be burned alive, and Lu Li would lose a great warrior. Boom! Blazing Hua was smashed away. He was having second thoughts. He knew that this was the best time to kill the Deaf Taoist. However, Lu Li's move was too powerful. Blazing Hua did not have much fire left. He could not hold on much longer. Run! In the end, Blazing Hua made up his mind and fled. He could not stay in a nightmare of dreams for long. Once he was trapped in the nightmare of dreams, he would die. Now that the Deaf Taoist was in the nightmare of dreams, Lu Li could not track him down. If the Deaf Taoist did not wake up for several days, then Blazing Hua would have enough time to run away. By then, he could dissolve the mark in his body, and Lu Li would not be able to find him. Lu Li watched as Blazing Hua ran away. He could not go after Blazing Hua. If Blazing Hua teleported, not only would Lu Li not be able to catch up with Blazing Hua, Lu Li himself would be lost as well. Lu Li had to wait for the Deaf Taoist to wake up. He believed that given the Deaf Taoist's abilities, he would wake up soon. If the Deaf Taoist did not wake up in a day or two, it would not be easy for Lu Li to hunt down Blazing Hua. Lu Li fed the Deaf Taoist some healing pellets and then went back into the wicked bead. He left the nightmare of dreams and waited quietly. Time moved on. Lu Li was getting more and more impatient. 6 hours later, the Deaf Taoist finally roared into the sky and opened his eyes. Roar, roar, the Deaf Taoist was furious. He kept roaring to vent his anger and depression. Lu Li flew the wicked bead over and said coldly, "Stop howling. If you keep howling, Blazing Hua will be gone. Come back now, and we will go after him." Chapter 11:57. This time, the Deaf Taoist was seriously injured. Many parts of his body were burnt. These were not regular burns. Some parts of his body were pierced through, and some of his bones were burnt. It was rare for the Deaf Taoist to be injured like this. Previously, he was forced into a dead end by Lu Li. Later, he pretended to be Lu Li's spiritual beast and tried to plot against Lu Li. However, the silver dragon mark almost destroyed his soul. In the end, he became Lu Li's spiritual beast. This had already enraged the Deaf Taoist. He did not expect that he would be injured like this by a mere Blazing Hua. The Deaf Taoist was a beast from the region of doom. If he was injured by an immortal, it would not be a big deal. However, Blazing Hua was just a mortal being, which the Deaf Taoist could not accept. Lu Li did not care how angry the Deaf Taoist was. The only thing he cared about was Blazing Hua. Lu Li flew the wicked bead at full speed. Blazing Hua had been on the run for 6 hours. It would take some time to catch up with him, or at least 8 to 10 hours. 2 hours later, the space in front of Lu Li began to tremble. Following that, a swarm of small bugs flew out. These worms looked translucent and were only the size of a thumb. The blood vessels on their bodies seemed to be clearly visible, just like ordinary worms. However, these worms had 4 abnormally sharp fangs. The wicked bead was so fast that the first batch of insects were stuck to the bead. What happened next shocked Lu Li. The more than a dozen bugs on the bead began to gnaw at the wicked bead. The wicked bead was glowing. Luli sensed that the energy of the wicked bead was decreasing rapidly. It was as if over a dozen deaf Taoists were attacking the wicked bead. Ghost bugs. Luli came back to his senses at once. He said to the deaf Taoist, "There are over a dozen ghost bugs attacking the wicked bead. Do you have any ideas?" "A dozen?" The deaf Taoist was taken aback. If there were only a few, he might have the courage to go out and fight. But if there were more than a dozen, he might lose his life here. Seeing that the deaf Taoist was hesitating, Luli had to count on himself. He flew the wicked bead backward, trying to get rid of the ghost bugs. However, those bugs were stuck to the bead. He could not get rid of them. Boom, boom. Luli simply smashed the wicked bead into the mountain. The impact left a pit on the ground. However, when he scanned it with his divine telekinesis, he found that the ghost worm was not harmed at all. But on second thought, if the ghost worms could be killed so easily, the deaf Taoist would have gone on a killing spree. Luli thought about it for a moment. He was ready to go out and use relic weapons to attack the ghost worms. He believed that relic weapons could not kill those puny worms. Squeak, squeak. Right at that moment, Little White happened to wake up. When it saw Luli, it immediately wagged its short tail and flew over with a big smile. It climbed onto Luli's shoulder and rubbed its head against Luli's face affectionately. "Little White, stay inside. I have something to do." Luli patted Little White's head, but it wouldn't let go. Little White had been in a deep sleep ever since it entered the wicked bead. It had absorbed a lot of energy of thunderbolts and had been working on it recently. Little White was reluctant to see Luli wake up. Luli didn't think too much about it. After all, he would come back in soon. Luli didn't worry too much. He rushed out with Little White. Swish, swish, outside the wicked bead. Luli aimed at two ghost worms and hacked at them with a relic weapon. He did not use the Slayer's move because he wanted to test the worm's defense. Clank, clank. When the relic weapon landed on the worms, there was a sound of metal clashing. The two ghost worms noticed Luli at once. They dashed toward Luli and made two strange noises. Luli was not afraid since he had the relic armor on. That being said, he did not want Little White to be hurt. Luli controlled the wicked bead to teleport back. Squeak, squeak. Right at that moment, Little White suddenly screamed. Somehow, it unleashed some ferocious energy and kept yelling at the worms. Luli wanted to go back into the wicked bead. However, when he used psychic power to check, he noticed that the ghost worms had stopped in midair, afraid to come closer. Many years ago, Luli remembered that in the ice mountains of the northern desert, Little White used its ferocious energy to suppress many Xian beasts and could control many low-level Xian beasts. Little White saw that again. This time, it was the ghost worms that even the deaf Taoist was afraid of in the prison of darkness. Impressive. Luli was sure that the ghost worms were afraid to come closer. Even the ghost worms that were biting the wicked bead had stopped. Luli was overjoyed. Little White, well done. Squeak, squeak. Little White raised her head proudly, her eyes full of smiles. Ever since Luli got the dragon demon, Little White was no longer needed. As Luli grew stronger and his opponents were more powerful, Little White became even less useful. Little White was as intelligent as a human being. Therefore, a few years ago, Little White was disappointed, thinking that Luli no longer wanted it. For Little White, Luli was its only family, its only master. Little White did not know what to do when Luli abandoned it. Therefore, Little White asked by Xia Shuang to take Little White to the island of tranquility to refine its body. This time, Little White was happy to come out with Luli. Now that it could help Luli and be praised, Little White was overjoyed. Little White crawled up and down on Luli's shoulder, holding its head high. It was overjoyed. Luli patted Little White's head and fed it with some soul stones. He wanted to take Little White back and forth to go after Blazing Hua. But the next second, he had an idea. Pointing to Little White, he said, "Little White, can you control those worms? It would be great if you can." Those worms were strong. Not even a relic could cut them apart. Each worm could be as strong as the deaf Taoist. When the deaf Taoist heard that there were over a dozen worms outside, he did not even dare to come out. If Little White could control these bugs, Luli couldn't even imagine how powerful it would be for him. When he caught up with Blazing Hoa, he could ask Little White to throw out a swarm of worms, and Blazing Hoa would be bitten to death. Squeak, squeak, Little White was hesitant. It squeaked at Luli, indicating that it would try. Little White flew away from Luli's shoulder. Somehow, Little White was intimidating. It squeaked around the worms, and its horns were glowing. After a moment, Little White flew back, feeling dejected. It shook its head at Luli and squeaked a bit with guilt. Then, it kept squeaking as if it was trying to express something. Luli could tell what Little White was trying to say. He asked, "Are you saying that you cannot control them now, and you can only suppress them? When you are stronger, you will be able to control them." Squeak, squeak, Little White nodded. Luli patted Little White's head and comforted it. "Little White, don't worry. This is the prison of darkness. Up there is the prison of soul. Across the prison of soul is the prison of thunder. The thunderbolts there are strong. If you can stand it, your abilities will soar." Squeak, squeak. Chapter 1158. Since the ghost worm could not be tamed, Luli went in with Little White to track down Blazing Hoa. The ghost worm had delayed them for a while, but it did not matter. The mark on Blazing Hoa was still there. He must have been on the run and did not have the time to dissolve the seal. "We are not far away." After 8 hours, the deaf Taoist suddenly said. His wounds were aggravated by talking. The deaf Taoist's mouth twitched as he continued. "Lord, I can tell that Blazing Hoa is less than 300,000 miles away from us. But the mark is blurred. I think he is dissolving it." Luli flew the wicked bead at full speed. He was not in a hurry because it would not do him any good. He had made up his mind to hunt down Blazing Hoa. As long as there was a glimmer of hope, he would not give up. The fact that he was hunting down Blazing Hoa must have spread across the purgatory of primordial chaos. The 9 universes must have received the news. Everyone in the 9 universes would feel insecure because of him. Nobody would dare to make trouble at the Heaven Reverse universe. Before Luli set off, he had asked Patriarch of Law Enforcement to relocate all disciples of the 4 families to the prison of wood. Even if someone from the 9 universes were to go to the Heaven Reverse universe, they could only kill some civilians, which would not affect Luli. Instead, it would enrage him. Many families would consider this. Oh no! After the time for 1 incense stick to burn, the deaf Taoist opened his eyes and reported, "My mark is gone. Lord, go after Blazing Hoa. He is about 30,000 miles ahead of us." Sure, 30,000 miles was not far. They could arrive in the time for half an incense stick to burn. The wicked bead flew fast while Luli used psychic power to check. After the time for half an incense stick to burn, he arrived at a huge valley. Before he could use psychic power, he heard a shrill noise coming from dozens of miles away. Blazing Hoa. Luli did not have to guess to know that it must be Blazing Hoa. He did not run into many warriors in the prison of darkness. He had been flying for a long time, but he only sensed 4 warriors cultivating. There were not many warriors in the prison of darkness. Could it be a coincidence that he would run into a warrior cultivating? The wicked bead was fast. In a moment, Luli had caught up with the warrior. When he used psychic power to check, he was taken aback. This was because the person in front of them was really not Blazing Hoa. He was just an ordinary late-stage divine transformation realm expert. Luli used psychic power to check carefully. Making sure that it was not Blazing Hoa, Luli was angered. It seemed that Blazing Hoa had purposely arranged this person to divert his attention. Blazing Hoa had either fled in another direction or tore the void to escape. It would be difficult to catch up with him. The deaf Taoist has been tricked. Luli told the deaf Taoist what had happened. Then, Luli let the deaf Taoist out to interrogate him. Boom! The deaf Taoist did not know where to vent his anger. He smashed at the semi-god realm warrior with a stone column. The deaf Taoist shouted, "What is your relationship with Blazing Hoa? Why are you helping him?" Deaf Taoist, "I have nothing to do with him." The old man looked wronged. He said embarrassedly, "I was cultivating nearby, and Blazing Hoa found me. He sat cross-legged for a while, and suddenly told me to fly here. Otherwise, he would kill me. Taoist. I had no choice. Bang. The deaf Taoist did not want to listen to this man's explanation. He smashed the old man to death with a stone column. Cupping his fists, the deaf Taoist said to the wicked bead, "Lord, let's split up. Blazing Hood cannot go far. He can only teleport a few thousand miles away." Okay. Luli threw out some jade talismans of warning and said something. Then, he flew the wicked bead to another direction. The wicked bead was much faster than Blazing Hoa. Luli still had a chance to find Blazing Hoa. He flew the wicked bead quickly and searched nearby. However, the prison of darkness was special. It was too dark and psychic power could not reach far. To find a person was like looking for a needle in a haystack. Luli searched for 2 hours, but there was no reply from the deaf Taoist. Luli's mind was weighed down. He could not find Blazing Hoa after 2 hours. It would be hard to track him down. The prison of darkness was a special place. Another hour later, Luli ran into the deaf Taoist. The latter entered the wicked bead and said decisively, "Lord, there is no need to search. We cannot find him. We have to wait at the entrance to the prison of soul and see if we can run into him. That is the only way." Luli nodded, guided by the deaf Taoist. He flew toward the entrance to the prison of soul. He wanted to see if he could be lucky. Along the way, Luli found some warriors. The deaf Taoist came out and sent 2 warriors to guard the entrance from the prison of darkness to the prison of wind. If Blazing Hood came back to the prison of wind, the 2 warriors would know. The prison of darkness was too dark. Usually, people did not like to cultivate here. Cultivating here for too long would change one's personality, which was not conducive to the breakthrough of realms. Nothing could be seen in the pitch darkness. What could one learn? Several days later, Luli arrived at the entrance to the prison of soul. Lu Renhuang had woken up. The deaf Taoist had top-level elixirs. His broken arm was growing back. Lu Renhuang and Luli talked for a long time and learned about what happened in the Heaven Reverse universe over the years. Lu Renhuang exclaimed and felt ashamed. Lu Renhuang was proud of Lu Li's current abilities. He did not feel uncomfortable just because Lu Li was stronger than him. As a father, he always wanted his son to be as outstanding as possible. After a while, Lu Renhuang began to cultivate. He wanted to recover as soon as possible so that he could offer some help when Lu Li attacked the Yin family. Lu Li gave him the bead of wood for him to consume. The bead of wood could detoxify and could be used as a shield. It was a good relic. Lu Renhuang's abilities would soar after he consumed the bead of wood. Even though he was not as powerful as Blazing Hoa and the Deaf Taoist, he could defeat average warriors at the peak of the semi-god realm. Near the entrance to the prison of soul, Lu Li asked the Deaf Taoist to wait outside while he cultivated in the wicked bead to study the map of fundamental principle and the Slayer's move. At the same time, Lu Li asked the Deaf Taoist to contact Lu Feng and observe the situation in the 9 universes. If warriors of the 9 universes really went to the Heaven Reverse universe and started a massacre, Lu Li could go back as soon as he received the news. Lu Li waited at the entrance to the prison of soul for 10 days, but received no news. Lu Li's mind was weighed down. The prison of darkness was connected to many small worlds and universes. If Blazing Hoa had entered a small world or a universe, he could hide in there for years or decades. Was Lu Li going to wait here all the time? On the 11th day, a warrior suddenly walked out from the entrance to the prison of soul, which caught the attention of the Deaf Taoist and Lu Li. That warrior seemed to know that Lu Li and the Deaf Taoist were hiding nearby. He flew over directly and delivered a piece of shocking news. Blazing Hoa was in the prison of soul. Several days ago, Lu Li failed to track down Blazing Hoa, and he flew over at once. The wicked bead was faster than Blazing Hoa. How could Blazing Hoa sneak into the prison of soul? It did not make sense. What surprised Lu Li more was that the warrior had a token in his hand. He said that he was here to deliver a message. Lu Li used psychic power to check the token. He was shocked. Chapter 1159. Lu Li dashed out and took the token of the Blood Emperor from the old man. Then, his interspatial ring glowed as another token of the Blood Emperor appeared. Lu Li made a comparison. The two tokens were identical. What is your relationship with the Blood Emperor? Luli looked at the old man with curiosity. There was a trace of respect in his tone. Luli had never met the Blood Emperor, but the latter had helped Luli a lot. Luli had borrowed the name of the Blood Emperor on many occasions. Though Luli did not acknowledge the Blood Emperor as his master, he was grateful and respectful. I am a servant of the Blood Emperor. The old man was at the peak of the semi-god realm, but he said with respect. He even bowed to Luli and said, Lord Lu, the Blood Emperor said that he wanted to take you as his protege. Unfortunately, fate makes fools of you. Now, he is no longer qualified to take you as his protege. That being said, he appreciates you, and you can be good friends despite the difference in age. The deaf Taoist nodded in agreement. Luli was his master now, and Luli was more powerful than the deaf Taoist and Blazing Hua. How could the Blood Emperor be qualified to take Luli as his protege? The deaf Taoist paused for a moment. Then, he flattered the Blood Emperor and said, Blood Emperor has a good eye, but it is an insult to him that he ranks third among the Purgatory's top 10. His true strength should be ranked first. This old Taoist still has this bit of insight. Luli had to respond to the Blood Emperor's compliment. He clasped his fists and said, I am indebted to the Blood Emperor. Later, I will pay him a visit and thank him. The old man took out a map and said, My lord said that Blazing Hua should be hiding in an area nearby. This is his base camp. There is a natural formation here. Lord Lu, be careful. The old man was hundreds of years older than Luli, but he addressed Luli as Lord. Luli did not find it strange. Lord was a title of respect. Anyone stronger than Luli could call him Lord. Then, Luli asked about where the Blood Emperor was cultivating in the Prison of Soul. The old man left. Luli asked the deaf Taoist, how come Blazing Hua can go to the Prison of Soul secretly? I think he went from a small world. The deaf Taoist thought about it and said, I heard that there's a small world connected to the Prison of Darkness and the Prison of Soul, but I don't know the exact location. Blazing Hua is very smart. He went to the Soul Prison quietly. If it weren't for the Blood Emperor's messenger, we would still be waiting here like idiots. Even if we went to the small worlds connected to the Dark Prison to investigate, we wouldn't know that he had gone to the Soul Prison quietly. Go! The Blood Emperor would not lie. Luli was about to head toward the towering mountain without hesitation when the deaf Taoist stopped him. Lord, the Prison of Soul is dangerous. Not only are there many powerful beasts of primordial chaos, but they can also carry out soul attacks. My lord has the protection of a powerful demon soul, so you shouldn't be afraid of soul attacks. But my lord still has to be very, very careful. There are many places in the soul prison that even I don't dare to recklessly enter. Otherwise, my soul will be destroyed. I know. You lead the way. I'll follow. Luli nodded solemnly. He had the silver dragon mark, but it didn't mean that he could ignore any soul attack. It was said that those below the peak of the semi-god realm would face certain death in the Prison of Soul. Not even warriors at the peak of the semi-god realm dared to go there. Those that could cultivate here were the most powerful warriors. At the very least, their souls must be strong. The Prison of Soul was the 9th level of the Purgatory of Primordial Chaos. After passing this level, they would arrive at the Prison of Thunder. In the Prison of Thunder, there was a path to heaven. Needless to say, the Prison of Soul was dangerous. Luli followed the deaf Taoist into the towering mountain. As soon as he stepped in, his eyes lit up. Luli had been in the Prison of Darkness. It was pitch dark. Seeing such a bright place, Luli closed his eyes at once. Buzzing. The wicked bead glowed as Luli went in. He said, Deaf Taoist, lead the way. We know where Blazing Hua is. We don't have to be in a hurry. We must be careful. The wicked bead was a powerful relic. Inside the wicked bead, Luli did not have to worry about attacks from the outside. Even soul attacks could not reach the people inside the wicked bead. Therefore, Luli was not worried about the safety of Lu Ren Huang, Patriarch Yi, and He Yu. Okay, the deaf Taoist did not transform, nor did he fly fast. Following the map given by the Blood Emperor, he flew to the left and use psychic power to check the surroundings in case something unexpected happened. Luli used psychic power to check. He realized that psychic power was not restricted here. The prison of soul might sound scary, but it was a nice view. The mountains were verdant, the water was clear, and the weather was pleasant. The xianqi in heaven and earth was rich, much richer than in the prison of wood and prison of water. I don't see any danger. Luli was hesitating. He had been flying for dozens of miles. All he could see were lush forests, beautiful rivers, green mountains, and many small beasts. So far, he had not seen any danger. Phew, phew! A gust of wind came from the distance. The deaf Taoist sensed it and flew to the left. He fell into a ravine and sat with his eyes closed. Whoosh! Luli did not let his guard down. He flew the wicked bead down and hid next to the deaf Taoist. The deaf Taoist seemed to be in pain when the gust passed. But when the gust died down, he opened his eyes. His forehead was covered in cold sweat. Is this feather wind with soul attacks? Luli did not suffer any attack when he was in the wicked bead. The wicked bead was not attacked either. Therefore, Luli asked out of curiosity, "This is ghastly wind." The deaf Taoist explained, "When the ghastly wind is over, anyone will fall into a horrifying illusion, as if they are in the underworld or purgatory. Those with weak souls will lose their minds directly. The ghastly wind we saw just now is an average one in the prison of soul. If there is a larger, ghastly wind, there may be soul-biting ants. Those ants do not have physical bodies. They can enter a warrior's soul directly and devour the warrior's soul." Luli was taken aback. Devouring souls directly? The soul-biting ants were freaky. The most important thing for a warrior was the soul. Once the soul was devoured, not even immortals could save the warrior. The deaf Taoist rested for a while and flew on. An hour later, Luli saw an erotic scene. He saw a plump lady running around naked. The lady did not seem to be old. She must have reached a powerful realm at a young age. She could maintain her youthful looks. Therefore, even though she was not young, there was no sign of aging. She was still attractive. That lady was naked. She ran on the green hills and would jump into the river every now and then. She would laugh and roll around on the grasses, doing all kinds of disgusting things. She has lost her mind. The deaf Taoist looked away and explained to Luli, "It is normal to run into lunatics in the prison of soul. Many people will lose their minds when their souls are damaged. There is a strange phenomenon in the prison of soul. The beasts of primordial chaos do not attack the lunatics. Many lunatics can survive. Over the years, there must be over 100 lunatics in the prison of soul. Over 100 lunatics." Luli touched his nose in embarrassment. The purgatory of primordial chaos was connected to the divinity. Everyone wanted to go against nature and go to the divinity. What they didn't know was that this path was fraught with dangers. One careless move, and they would be doomed eternally. One step to become an immortal, and one step to become a demon. There is only half a step between immortals and mortals. P.S. Today, the official account will publish the winner of the most beautiful women of the great land. Go and have a look. Did you get it right? For those who didn't follow the account, you can search for the official account, Night of the Wicked, and click on the history to see the previous pictures. Chapter 1160. The deaf Taoist was not lying. In less than half a day, Luli ran into another 2 lunatics. Both of them were at the peak of the semi-god realm. One of the lunatics was fast. He dashed out from below like a ghost. Luli and the deaf Taoist thought he was going to attack. However, the lunatic circled around the wicked bead and then dived into the lake. Then he came out with a big fish in his arms. He opened his mouth and bit the fish. His mouth was covered in blood. Luli and the deaf Taoist left the man alone after they were sure that he was a lunatic. But they felt it was a pity that the man's footwork was too slow. His footwork was strange. Just now, he was about to be hit by the wicked bead, but he dodged in an instant. In that instant, he was even faster than the wicked bead. This must be some kind of secret skill. But the old man had lost his mind. It seemed that this skill would be lost. The map given by the Blood Emperor's servant was to the northeast of the prison of Soul, a distance from the exit. It would take Lu Li 3 to 4 days. If he flew in the wicked bead at full speed, it would only take him 2 days. It was a pity that the deaf Taoist said they could not go too fast because some places in the prison of Soul were horrifying. It would be hard to come out. Half a day later, the deaf Taoist stopped. Pointing to a huge dark cave, he said, "This is the famous bottomless pit. Throughout history, none of the powerful warriors that entered the bottomless pit came out. Not one. Not one." The deaf Taoist would not lie. Lu Li's heart skipped a beat. How many powerful warriors were there in the 9 universes? Many must have come to the prison of Soul. Experts were all very daring, and there were probably countless experts who had entered the bottomless pit, right? But none came out? What was in the bottomless pit? Lu Li was very curious. He almost couldn't help but want to go in and find out. Putting aside the fact that so many experts had entered, how many treasures would there be inside? Seeing that Lu Li did not say anything, the deaf Taoist knew that Lu Li was interested. The deaf Taoist poured cold water on Lu Li. "Lord, you'd better not do anything rash. In history, there was an immortal that went in and never came out." What? Lu Li was scared out of his wits this time. How powerful was an immortal? Although the peak of soul formation stage was only 1 step away from the God state, the difference in strength was like the difference between an ordinary person and a soul formation stage expert. Logically speaking, a godly state expert could sweep across the 9 realms, and any place would be like flat ground to a godly state expert. But he didn't expect that this dark cave, which didn't look very scary, could actually trap a God state expert. "Let's go." Lu Li's curiosity vanished. He didn't care if there were many relics in such a horrifying place. If he lost his life, hundreds of relics would be meaningless. They took a detour and flew on. Now, Lu Li believed that the deaf Taoist was telling the truth. A place like the Soul Prison was truly not a place that one could simply barge into. A single mishap, and one wouldn't even know how they died. Not good. Another couple of hours later, the deaf Taoist suddenly yelled, "Lord, teleport me in." Without hesitation, Lu Li sent the deaf Taoist in. The latter was still frightened. He took a deep breath and said, "There is ghastly wind up ahead, and it is strong. There must be a large number of soul-biting ants." Lu Li was curious. He used psychic power to check. There was a gust of ghastly wind. The ghastly wind was overwhelming, covering an area. Lu Li used psychic power to check the ghastly wind. He could see some faint shadows, the size of ants, very small. Those are soul-biting ants. Lu Li was taken aback. If it were not for the deaf Taoist warning, if he didn't have a relic and came here alone, he wouldn't even know how he died. Those soul-biting ants didn't seem to be a threat at all. If Lu Li didn't look carefully, he wouldn't even notice them. He would think they were just sand in the ghastly wind. There are not just 1 or 2 soul-biting ants, but everywhere. Lu Li could see at least hundreds of them. He could imagine that once a warrior was enveloped by the ghastly wind and the soul-biting ants were attacking the warrior's soul, the soul-biting ants would devour the warrior's soul quickly. The warrior wouldn't even know how he died. The ghastly wind blew over. Lu Li breathed with lingering fear. He flew the wicked bead for some distance before he said to the deaf Taoist, "It's okay now. We are safe." The deaf Taoist teleported out and continued to lead the way. Every couple of hours, they would run into ghastly wind and some beasts of primordial chaos in the prison of soul. The beasts of primordial chaos here were not large in size, and all of them could launch soul attacks. Luckily, the deaf Taoist's soul was strong. Lu Li didn't need to help anymore. Along the way, Lu Li ran into some more lunatics. One of them was dying. He was crawling on a mountain, weak and feeble. Many parts of his body were rotting. It was difficult for him to climb up a mountain. His eyes were empty and lifeless, like a walking corpse. Lu Li took a look and ordered the deaf Taoist to kill the man. He would rather die than live like this. He had lost his soul, and his body was in such a state. Lu Li might as well send him on his way. Once again, Lu Li sensed the difficulty of the path of cultivation. How many warriors were there in the 9 universes? How many could reach the semi-god realm? How many were stuck at the last step? How many could become immortals in 1,000,000 years? Even if he went to the immortal world, would he really be able to live forever? In the Waters region and several other universes, there were warriors who became immortals but died tragically in the divinity. Emperor of Heaven Reverse, Yin Tiangang, and the others went to the divinity for so many years and finally became mighty warriors in the divinity. However, they could not even come back once. It was said that Yin Tiangang had been a slave to a powerful warrior for 100,000 years in order to bring the relic back to the Yin family. Even an immortal had to be a slave. It was not hard to imagine how difficult the path of cultivation was. Lu Li's mind was weighed down by this thought. He had not become an immortal yet. For him, becoming an immortal was only the first step. How to survive in the divinity and how to escape from Yin Tiangang, god of wings, and god of barbarian was the second step. He had to find Lu Ling in the divinity. It was said that the divinity was boundless. It was said that it was impossible for someone like God of Barbarian to go across the southern divinity. Lu Li also promised Emperor Z that he would go to the third plane of the divinity to find his daughter and find a way to kill his enemy, an emperor at the third plane of the divinity. The thought of it gave Lu Li a headache. For many, becoming an immortal was the ultimate dream. For Lu Li, becoming an immortal was just the beginning. That was still a long way in the future. Forget it. Lu Li shook his head. He turned to Lu Renhuang and made up his mind. When Lu Li was just born, Lu Renhuang took his mother to the ice abyss. Back then, Lu Ling was only 4 years old. What did a 4-year-old know? What did she do? What was more, his grandpa had died a tragic death back then. Lu Ling had no one to rely on. She had to rely on herself. But she survived and raised him. Chapter 1161. 3 days later, they finally arrived at the location marked on the map. This was a famous place in the Prison of Soul. There was a dangerous mountain called the 9-Mile Mountain. The 9-Mile Mountain had the same meaning as the 7 steps of the snake. It meant that any warrior that dared to go into the mountain would face certain death. The scary thing was that there were many natural inhibition formations that could attack souls. Also, some beasts of primordial chaos were lurking in the mountain. Warriors at the peak of the semi-god realm would have a hard time coming out. Blazing Hua is smart to choose a place like this to cultivate. Lu Li nodded after hearing the deaf Taoist's words. Lu Li did not know how Blazing Hua could suppress the beasts of primordial chaos in the mountain. However, when outsiders heard that there were powerful beasts of primordial chaos, they would not dare to go in. Even the deaf Taoist was afraid of the powerful beasts of primordial chaos. Average warriors would not have the courage to go in. Lu Li gazed into the rolling mountains and asked, "How do we attack?" "I will lead the attack." "Lord, you can support me." The deaf Taoist was burning with anger. He made up his mind and said, "We will attack from above and force Blazing Hor out. As long as we do not go in, the inhibition formations will not affect us. If we alarm the powerful beasts of primordial chaos, just pull me into the wicked bead in time." "Sure." Lu Li thought about it and added, "Wait a moment. I will make 100 stone golems. They are not afraid of any soul attacks. I will let them be the vanguard." Lu Li sat with his legs crossed and began to make stone golems. He had not learned the 3rd level of the method of stone golems. When he learned the 3rd level, he could make stone golems that were as powerful as immortals. But that would require divine energy. Lu Li had not become an immortal yet. Lu Li could make stone golems quickly. In less than an hour, he had made 100 stone golems. "Let's go." Lu Li put the stone golems into the wicked bead with the deaf Taoist. The wicked bead flew up to the sky above the mountain. There are so many inhibition formations. Lu Li used psychic power to check the mountain down. He noticed that in many places, space was blurred. He sensed some weak inhibition formations. Buzzing, the wicked bead began to tremble as stone golems came out one by one and dashed toward the west. The deaf Taoist came out as well. His robe was torn apart as he grew taller. The stone column appeared in his hand, and he smashed it downward. Chi-chi, a shocking waterfall, whizzed out of the stone pillar and heavily struck down on the mountain range below. The restrictive spells below immediately began to fluctuate. Boom, boom, boom. The stone man flew down and started to blast the ground, alerting many chaos beasts. The stone men were not afraid of soul spirit attacks. Most of the restrictions below were soul spirit attacks. It was the same for the chaos beasts. Therefore, the stone men charged around and attacked everywhere. Soon, the people inside were forced out. Whoosh, 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 4 or 5 warriors flew up, led by Blazing Hua. He stared at the deaf Taoist and Lu Li in astonishment, wondering how Lu Li found them. And it was so fast. Lu Li, Blazing Hua roared angrily. Don't push me too far. Otherwise, it will not be good for anyone if we fight to the death. Are you done with your nonsense? Lu Li did not want to waste time with Blazing Hua. He let out the immortal's body. The deaf Taoist began to attack. The huge stone column in his hand smashed at Blazing Hua. You go first. Blazing Hua used the stove to trap the immortal's body. Then, Blazing Hua released flames and ghost light to attack the deaf Taoist. Whoosh! The 3 warriors with Blazing Hua did not hesitate. They fled to different directions. They knew that they would die for sure if they stayed. Many stone golems came, trying to stop the 3 warriors. Unfortunately, the stone golems were too weak. They were no match for the semi-god realm warriors. Buzzing, Lu Li dashed out from the wicked bead. He did not mind the warriors that were running away. All he cared about was Blazing Hua. Wielding the relic weapon, Lu Li hacked down. Boom! Old monster Shui was sent flying. However, this time, he did not fly back up, nor did he flee into the distance. Instead, he fled underground. Go after him. Lu Li waved his hand. The relic weapon smashed at the shield of fire that trapped the immortal's body. The shield was broken. The immortal's body dashed out and went after Lu Li. Whoosh, the deaf Taoist followed Blazing Hua. Both he and Lu Li had sensed that there was a tunnel under the mountain. At the moment, Blazing Hua was dashing toward the tunnel. There must be a teleportation formation underground or a tunnel to a small world. Blazing Hua was trying to run away. Lu Li and the deaf Taoist would not let Blazing Hua go after such a long time. Both of them sped up. The immortal's body was faster than them. Before Blazing Hua could go underground, the immortal's body punched. Bang! The punch did not inflict any harm to Blazing Hua. Instead, he fell even faster. The tunnel was deep. Not even psychic power could reach the bottom. It was much deeper than the place where the immortal's body hid. Lu Li was wearing the relic armor, so he was not afraid of soul attacks. The deaf Taoist was Lu Li's spiritual beast. Naturally, he would not say anything, not to mention the immortal's body. They were falling fast. In a few blinks, they had reached a depth of 100,000 feet. Still, they could not see the bottom. Lu Li was hesitating, but he did not stop. Well, finally, after another 100,000 feet, Lu Li sensed a huge underground plaza with psychic power. There was a huge teleportation formation in the plaza. Blazing Hua was trying to escape to a small world. Boom! Blazing Hua was punched down by the immortal's body. Lu Li ordered the deaf Taoist, faster, go and destroy the portal. Do not let Blazing Hua escape. Roar, roar, the deaf Taoist cried into the sky. He grew taller and sped up. He dashed down to the underground plaza and smashed at the portal with the stone column. Ah ha ha ha. Blazing Hua did not panic at all. Instead, he laughed out loud. He did not rush toward the teleportation formation. Instead, he grinned hideously and said, Lu Li, deaf Taoist, you have the courage to break into hell instead of heaven. This time, I will let you die without a burial place. Formation ablaze, activate, buzzing. As Blazing Hua shouted, the entire underground plaza lit up. Then, a strange ripple spread out from the walls. A half-transparent shield came out and covered up the entire plaza. No, that is a brutal soul attack. The deaf Taoist yelled. Lu Li noticed something was wrong in an instant. Surges of strange energy were surging toward his soul pond. The energy was growing stronger and stronger. The tides turned into waves that were about to crush his soul pond. Swish, swish! In addition to the soul attack, flames were bursting out from the four walls. The flames were blue and the temperature was horrifying. In a moment, the entire underground palace was engulfed in flames. Luli had the relic armor, but he only felt the heat. The deaf Taoist, on the other hand, could not stand it. He was burnt and rolled around on the ground in pain. Many parts of his body were charred. The flames were not weaker than the corpse fire. Ha. Chapter 1162. Buzzing. Luli took out the wicked bead, wanted to go in at once. What happened next shocked him. The wicked bead glowed, but he could not go in. Clearly, the space here was confined. In Luli's soul pond, the silver dragon began to move around, consuming the energy that came in. The soul attacks here seemed ferocious, but for Luli, it was not too stressful. The blue flames enveloped him. Luli felt the heat was unbearable. Luckily, the relic armor could stand it. It would take several days and nights for Luli to be burnt to death. The immortal's body was fine as well. Neither the soul attacks nor the flames could harm him. The immortal's body kept on attacking Blazing Hua. Luli and the immortal's body were fine, but the deaf Taoist seemed to be losing. The deaf Taoist was strong, but he did not have a relic armor. He was made of flesh. Soon, he would be burnt to death under such horrifying flames. Swish! Luli could not sit around and wait for death. The immortal's body was chasing after Blazing Hua. Luli swung his relic weapon and smashed at the walls. As long as the formations on the walls could be broken, at least the deaf Taoist could escape, or Luli could use the wicked bead. Boom! The blood-red ray of sword light landed on the wall. Once again, Luli was astonished. The Slayer's move was powerful, but it did not inflict any damage on the walls. The underground palace has a strong defense formation. Luli had an idea. This formation must be similar to the one protecting the demon-slaying city. It must have been built for many years and had absorbed and stored a lot of energy. To crack it in a short time will be difficult. Charge! Luli reacted quickly. If he could not crack the formation, then he would kill Blazing Hua first. After all, they could not leave, and Blazing Hua could not run away. As for whether the deaf Taoist could survive would depend on his luck. Swish! Luli aimed at Blazing Hua. Blazing Hua still had black flames, and he could gather the blue flames around him to form a shield. However, Luli and the immortal's body worked together and kept attacking. Blazing Hua's black flames were being consumed, and he was smashed away again and again. Ow! Blazing Hua saw that Luli was standing in the flames as if nothing had happened. More importantly, his soul was not affected at all. Blazing Hua was taken aback. His face paled. The soul divine array here was not set up by him. It was formed naturally. He set up the fierce flame array here because he valued the soul divine array here. But Luli was not affected at all. According to his original plan, as long as Luli's soul was affected, Luli would die. Then, he could burn Luli down with the flames. By then, the three relics would all be his. Boom, boom, boom. After being sent flying again and again, Blazing Hua grew anxious. There was not much black flame left in his body. At most, he could withstand a few hundred attacks. Without the black flames, he would not be able to condense the leaf fire shield, and that would be the end of him. How can Luli's soul be so strong? This doesn't make sense, right? Could it be that he has a soul defense divine artifact? Blazing Hua remembered that in the nightmare of darkness, Luli woke up as well. Blazing Hua had a bad feeling. Blazing Hua made up his mind. He released what was left of the corpse flame and the ghost flame. As soon as the two types of flames were released, the temperature in the underground plaza was raised by several times. The deaf Taoist rolled around on the ground in pain. His skin was burning. A smell of burnt flesh spread in the underground plaza. Ghost flame, go. Blazing Hua controlled the ghost flame and the ghost flame to fly toward Luli. If the two types of flames could not burn Luli to death, then there would be nothing Blazing Hua could do. Well, the two types of flames came. Before they were close, Luli already felt it. The relics were strong. However, when the strength reached a certain level, the relics would not be able to stand it. Inevitably, the heat of the flames seeped in and burned Luli's body. However, Luli's physical body was strong, and he had the dragon armor on. His skin was covered with dragon scales that kept the heat away. He felt much better. Painful as it was, he could not be burned to death. Whoosh! His body flashed and made an arc, striking at Blazing Hua in the distance. Blazing Hua felt hopeless when he saw the blood-red ray of sword light. He had used his two strongest types of flames, but they could not burn Lu Li to death. Blazing Hua could not escape this time. Lu Li stopped. When Blazing Hua came back to his senses, he shouted, "Do not push me too far, or I will activate the formation and explode it. This formation has been accumulating energy for decades. By then, we will all be killed. If you don't want to die, we will talk." Luli stopped at a distance from the corpse flame and the ghost flame. He could protect himself with the dragon armor. Looking at Blazing Hua coldly, Luli asked, "What do you want to talk about?" Simple. Blazing Hua wiped off the blood on the corner of his mouth. Then, he built a wall of fire to stop the immortal's body. Blazing Hua said, "I did murder your father, but in the end, your father was fine. But 4 of my men died. You have been hunting me down for a long time. I have lost all my dignity. We are even now. I promise that I will not be your enemy. You can leave now. What do you say?" "Even?" Lu Li sneered. "You are overthinking. If you're not sincere, then don't say it." "Wait." Blazing Hua was about to attack again. Blazing Hua was anxious. "What do you want? Name your terms." Lu Li thought about it and said, "It is simple. Surrender to me and come with me to attack the Yin family. After I level the 9 universes, I will set you free. Also, I will spare the Hua family. Surrender." Blazing Hua was enraged. Who was he? He was one of the most powerful warriors in the 9 universes, the forefather of the Hua family, the number 2 of the Purgatory's top 10. How could he surrender to a kid like Lu Li? Would this be more painful than killing him? "You wish." Blazing Hua yelled without hesitation. "You want me to be your slave? Are you out of your mind?" "I don't care. The Deaf Taoist will be my slave, all the same. To tell you the truth, Chun Tianxian is my slave as well," Lu Li said coldly. Waving the relic weapon in his hand, he said, "If you cannot let go of your dignity, then go to hell. Later on, I promise I will send all your Hua family disciples to hell so that your family can be reunited." As for soul slaves, Lu Li didn't care too much about them. Having too many soul slaves might affect his cultivation. He could not learn the map of fundamental principle. He was not sure if it was because of soul slaves. Blazing Hua was powerful, especially when it came to flames. He might be able to break the divine imperial city. Therefore, Lu Li gave Blazing Hua a chance. Also, he did not want the Deaf Taoist to be burned alive. Since Blazing Hua would not come to his senses, Lu Li did not want to talk anymore. Swish! The blood-red ray of sword light whooshed on. On the other side, the immortal's body broke through the wall of fire and began to attack again. Blazing Hua was smashed away again and again. Blazing Hua was in despair. He was struggling inside. He did not have much time left in his life. 100 or 200 years at most. He could not make the final step in this lifetime. He had known this for many years. He was not afraid of death. Dying with dignity was better than living like a dog. The problem was, what would the Hua family do after he died? Apart from him, the Hua family had no other powerful warriors. Over the years in the purgatory of primordial chaos, Blazing Hua had offended many people. If he died, Lu Li would not have to do anything for the Hua family. Stop it. Chapter 1163. Blazing Hua actually had another option, which was to control the explosion of the formation in the underground square. That would be a life-and-death struggle. The fish would die, but the net would not be broken because Lu Li had a relic armor. What was more, the moment the formation collapsed, Lu Li could go back to the Wicked Bead instantly. Given the Wicked Bead's defense, Lu Li could survive as long as he was in there. Kill the Deaf Taoist? What was the point of that? The sacred remains might not even be destroyed. That was why he chose to surrender instead of causing the formation to explode. The Deaf Taoist, ranked number 4 among the Purgatory's top 10, Enchantment, was the family patriarch of the Chun family, the overlord of the Central Imperial Universe. Being Lu Li's sole slave made him feel better. He didn't feel so humiliated. Of course, Blazing Hood did not surrender right away. Instead, he negotiated some terms with Lu Li. For example, Lu Li had to take an almighty oath that Lu Li would return his freedom before the Yin family was destroyed or Lu Li ascended to the divinity, and the whole family's safety and interests would be guaranteed. The terms were easy to negotiate. Lu Li asked Blazing Hua to turn off the formation of Blaze. The Deaf Taoist was half dead. At this rate, the Deaf Taoist would be charged soon. Blazing Hua stopped the formation of Blaze, and Lu Li stopped the immortal's body. Both sides began to negotiate. Blazing Hua's request was not outrageous. He was just worried that Lu Li would control Blazing Hua all the time. Blazing Hua was even worried that Lu Li would kill Blazing Hua when he was done with Blazing Hua, and the Hua family would be destroyed. This kind of thing wasn't rare, because many people had perverted personalities and were fickle. Before becoming a soul slave, everything was fine, but after becoming a soul slave, they could kill and take revenge if they wanted. Lu Li was not that kind of person. Lu Li had taken in many soul slaves in the past. He never went back on his word. He didn't even mistreat soul slaves. He even let the Fairy Fox King and the Sea Lion King go back. Therefore, Lu Li didn't think Blazing Hua's offer was outrageous. He agreed without hesitation. After the oath was made, Lu Li planted a soul seal on Blazing Hua and made him his soul slave. Would it affect his cultivation if he took in such a powerful soul slave? Lu Li did not know. Lu Li didn't have time to worry. He had to bring the Deaf Taoist and Blazing Hua to the prison of gold and figure out a way to enter the divine imperial universe. What if they could break the divine imperial city with their combined efforts? The formation of Blaze was off, and Lu Li could use the wicked beat again. He brought Blazing Hua into the inner hall and let Patriarch Yi out to tend to the Deaf Taoist. Father, he woke Lu Renhuang up, pointed to Blazing Hua, and said, I have subdued this old man. He is my soul slave. If you want revenge, just do it. As long as you don't kill him, you can do anything. When Lu Li was negotiating with Blazing Hua, he mentioned that he would avenge Lu Renhuang later. Blazing Hua did not think it was a big deal. It was fine as long as he was not humiliated. Lu Renhuang's arm was not fully grown yet. He opened his eyes and stared at Blazing Hua. Coldness filled his eyes, and he was filled with murderous intent. But after a moment, the murderous intent died down. Lu Renhuang waved his hand and said, Now that you have taken him in as your soul slave, this Blazing Hua is now a dog of the Lu family. It is not a good thing to bully a soul slave, and there is no pleasure in it. Lu Renhuang was not a man who would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. Besides, Blazing Hua had become Lu Li's slave and dog. Lu Renhuang's anger had subsided. What pleasure could there be in torturing a dog that did not know how to fight back? Lu Li had predicted Lu Renhuang's reaction. Lu Li sent Blazing Hua out so that Lu Renhuang would not be annoyed. Lu Renhuang was found, and Blazing Hua surrendered. That was the end of the matter. Lu Li took a look at the Deaf Taoist. The latter had come back to life. That being said, it would take at least 10 days or half a month for him to recover. Lu Li let Blazing Hua into the outer hall of the Wicked Bead and asked Patriarchy to take care of him. Do you have any plans? If not, we will go to the prison of thunder, and then we will attack the divine imperial universe. This time, Lu Li had 3 objectives. The first was to find Lu Renhuang. The second was to wipe out the Yin family and deter the 9 universes. The third was to study the map of fundamental principle in the prison of wind. Lu Li was not in a hurry. He was worried that some warriors of the 9 universes would have designs on the Heaven Reverse universe. Therefore, he wanted to go to the prison of gold and deter the families. Yes, Blazing Hua said, I have used up the 3 kinds of special flames. I need to go to several secret areas to collect more. Sure, Blazing Hua's strongest skill was special flames. Without special flames, his abilities would be weakened. He would be no different from an average warrior at the peak of the semi-god realm. Luli might as well not take him in. Therefore, Luli asked without hesitation, "How long will it take?" Blazingwood thought about it and said, "A month. 2 small worlds are in the prison of soul, and 1 is in the prison of darkness." "Okay." Luli waved his hand. "Go and find me in the prison of gold as soon as possible. I will leave someone at the exit of the prison of gold to tell you my whereabouts." Blazingwood left. Luli did not linger. He put away the immortal's body and flew up in the wicked bead. He took out the map given to him by the Blood Emperor's servant. Then he flew to the east. The Blood Emperor had helped him a lot. This time, he even pointed the way. Now that Luli had come to the prison of soul, he must pay a visit to the Blood Emperor and thank him. After the visit, Luli decided to go to the prison of thunder. He was not bold enough to go to the prison of thunder. He just wanted to take Little White there. If Little White could survive the thunderbolts outside, the prison of thunder would be the best place for Little White to cultivate. The deaf Taoist was badly injured. Luli did not feel right to ask him to lead the way. He had to fly slowly in the wicked bead. After all, they could just go around the strange places. As long as they did not take risks, they should not run into too much danger. Along the way, Luli kept checking with psychic power. They ran into some lunatics, many beasts of primordial chaos, and some places that seemed terrifying. Luli had already taken a detour. He was not here to gain experience. He was just passing by. After 4 days of peaceful flying, Luli finally found the place where the Blood Emperor lived. It was a strange stone forest. What surprised Luli was there was ghastly wind blowing in the stone forest. He could even detect soul-biting ants. Did the ghastly wind just happen to be here, or have it been here all along? Luli was surprised. While he was wondering if he should send the deaf Taoist out to check, the space outside the stone forest trembled. The Blood Emperor's servant came out. He bowed with respect and said, "Lord Lu, my master and Astro Emperor have been waiting for you. Please come with me into the valley for a chat." Astro Emperor? Luli found the name strange. Was this person waiting for him with the Blood Emperor? Luli thought for a while and sent the deaf Taoist in from the outer hall. "Who is Astro Emperor?" "Astro Emperor." A glint of fear rose in the deaf Taoist's eyes as he explained. "He ranks first among the Purgatory's top 10. His skills in 8 trigrams are unparalleled. He may not be the most powerful in the 9 universes, but his ability to seek fortune and avoid disasters is second to none." A fortune teller? Chapter 1164. Led by the Blood Emperor's servant, Luli walked into the stone forest alone. There were ghastly wind and soul-biting ants in the stone forest. But the ghastly wind would be blown away by the servant. The soul-biting ants would go with the ghastly wind, not daring to get close to the servant. Impressive. Luli nodded to himself. There must be some miraculous inhibition formations in the stone forest. Both the ghastly wind and the soul-biting ants were under control. This formed a natural barrier in the valley. In order to break into the valley, Luli must break through the ghastly wind and the soul-biting ants first. After several turns, Luli entered the depth of the stone forest. He sensed a small valley with psychic power. The view in the valley was beautiful. There were clouds and mist. Looking from a distance, it was like a paradise where immortals lived. As soon as Luli entered the valley, he noticed something different. This was indeed a paradise. The Xianqi in heaven and earth was much richer than outside. The Xianqi in the prison of soul was already rich. This place was even richer. Even a fish that stayed in the stream in the valley for a long time could grow stronger. Ha ha ha. In the middle of the valley was a lush forest. Outside the forest were several cottages. From outside came a hearty laugh. A short old man in a white robe and an old man with a palm leaf fan walked out of the thatched cottage. The one who laughed was a short old man in a white robe. His white hair touched the ground, and his eyebrows and beard were snow white. His eyebrows were very long, and as he laughed, he looked like a kind and amiable grandpa next door. The short old man with white hair laughed. He looked at Lu Li and nodded. Good. It has been more than a decade. You haven't changed much, but you are more mature and reserved. Nice to meet you. I am Blood Emperor, and this is Astro Emperor. Astro Emperor did not seem to have any special features. He was neither short nor tall. His looks were average and gentle. He did not have the domineering aura of a powerful warrior. Astro Emperor had a long gray beard. He was waving the fan in his hand. If it were not for the fact that he was standing with Astro Emperor, Luli would have thought that he was just an average semi-god realm warrior. This must be a return to simplicity. Luli had an idea. Then he bowed to Astro Emperor and said, Greetings, Blood Emperor. I will never forget your kindness. Ha ha ha. Accepting Lu Li's bow, Blood Emperor was smiling. He helped Luli up and said, You are too kind. That day, I just saw that you have a strong temper. You killed a young master of the Hao family, which suits me. I've only made a move once. I don't deserve such a big gift from you, little friend. The Blood Emperor didn't continue talking about accepting disciples. His skin wasn't so thick to this extent. After all, Luli might not be more powerful than him, but he was at least not weaker than him. What was more, Luli was still so young. There was a great chance that he could ascend to immortality. It was only a matter of time before Lu Li surpassed him. After exchanging some pleasantries with Blood Emperor, Lu Li bowed to Astro Emperor again and said, Greetings, Astro Emperor. This time, Lu Li only bowed slightly, which was a show of respect to the Astro Emperor. After all, he didn't know Star Emperor, and he wasn't weaker than Star Emperor. He bowed to him out of respect for Blood Emperor and also out of respect for the Elder. Little friend Lu, you're welcome. Please get up. Astro Emperor smiled and accepted Lu Li's bow. Stroking his beard, he waved his fan and said, More than a decade ago, I was observing the stars at night, and I saw something interesting. Back then, the divination showed that the Myrtle star was dimming. Next to it, there was an unknown new star that was going to surpass the Myrtle star. Back then, I told Astro Emperor that there will be a genius born in a small universe. That genius will dominate the 9 universes and overturn the structure of the 9 universes. Little friend Lu, you are young and promising. You have a promising future. Lu Li put on a gentle smile, but he didn't agree with it. He had always believed that the art of fortune-telling and 8 diagrams were deceptive and that fortune-tellers were con men. The theory of fate was nonsense. Lu Li never accepted his fate. He believed that to change one's fate, one must work hard, not rely on fate. Ha ha. Astro Emperor threw Lu Li a look but didn't say anything. Blood Emperor invited Lu Li into the cottage warmly. Lu Li and Astro Emperor walked into a cottage and then to the backyard. They sat down in a pavilion under a tree. Blood Emperor's servants served tea. Blood Emperor invited Lu Li and Astro Emperor to have a taste. Astro Emperor didn't drink the tea. Instead, he waved the fan in his hand and said, Little friend Lu, you don't seem to believe in fate. Lu Li didn't want to discuss this topic, so he didn't answer. Now that Astro Emperor had said it, Lu Li was unhappy. He thought about it and said, On the path of cultivation, one must change one's fate. To change one's fate is not only to change one's lifespan, but also one's fate. If everyone's fate is predetermined, then we don't have to work hard. We can improve our realms by sitting at home every day. If a person is destined to become an immortal, then he can become an immortal without cultivating, right? Astro Emperor, what do you think? Astro Emperor just said that the Myrtle star was dimming and the new star was rising. Did he mean that more than a decade ago, he knew that Lu Li could rise and dominate the 9 universes? If he didn't work hard over the years, and if he gave up on many occasions, he might not even be able to walk out of the northern desert, let alone become the master of the Heaven Reverse universe and dominate the 9 universes. It was because he didn't believe in fate and he didn't want to be manipulated by it. He had fought back many times and fought his way out. That was how he got to where he was today. You want him to believe that everything is predetermined? Astro Emperor was not angry. He waved his fan and said, Everyone's fate is predetermined. But he doesn't know what his fate is, and he cannot control it. Little friend Lu, Do you think that you have made it this far on your own? If, when you first entered the prison of gold and fought with the young master of the Hao family, you didn't run into the Blood Emperor, you would have died that day. If warriors of the 9 universes invaded the Heaven Reverse universe, and you didn't have the protection of a silver dragon when you tamed the immortal's body, you would have died as well. Another example, in the forbidden ground of Elder God, if it weren't for the silver dragon, how could you fight against the feather wind? How could you get the wicked bead? Without the wicked bead, you would have died many times, right? Without the wicked bead, you could not get the Slayer's blood or learn the Slayer's move. All of this shows that some things can't be achieved just by hard work. Everything depends on luck, and the so-called luck is also a part of fate. Luli was stunned. He stared at Astro Emperor as if he had seen a ghost. Many of the things Astro Emperor said were secrets. The outside world had no idea. Astro Emperor couldn't find out many things even if he tried. In front of Astro Emperor, Luli felt he was a naked man with no secrets. Little friend Lu, if you still don't believe me, I have something else to say. Astro Emperor smiled a mysterious smile. After a pause, he continued, as a matter of fact, your luck shouldn't be this strong. It is all because of one person. She came to the Heaven Reverse universe and changed your fate. Without her, you would have died the moment you were born. Boom. Chapter 1165. At this moment, Luli even suspected that Astro Emperor was not a human being, but an omnipotent god. What Star Emperor had just said was absolutely confidential. Not even Lu Li could go to the Heaven Reverse universe and ask Patriarch of Law Enforcement Lu Zhengyang. Lu Renhuang was the only one who knew about Lu Ling. Astro Emperor was right. Luli was not that lucky. Everything changed because of the arrival of one person, because of Lu Ling. Lu Ling came with a piece of treasure, a primitive animal tooth pendant. The moment Lu Li was born, Lu Renhuang took the animal tooth pendant off Lu Ling's neck for fear that Lu Li would die. Because of the animal tooth pendant, Lu Li survived and awakened the silver dragon bloodline. There was a silver dragon mark in his mind. The silver dragon mark not only protected him from many fatal soul attacks, but also helped him to awaken many bloodline skills and survive many disasters. If it were not for the silver dragon bloodline, he would not have been able to tame the immortal's body and the Death Taoist. He would have died in the battle against Blazing Hua. It could be said that the silver dragon mark changed his life. In other words, the animal tooth pendant changed his fate. Lu Ling's arrival changed his fate. There was not much to say. The key was, how did Astro Emperor know? This couldn't be explained logically. It was already impossible to explain. Astro Emperor stroked his beard and said, everyone's fate is preordained. Since it is preordained, then we can find some clues from heaven and earth. You set yourself. The path of cultivation is to change your fate. If you're going against nature, heaven can sense it. Heaven and earth nurtures everything, and everything is in heaven and earth. As long as you are in harmony with heaven and earth, you can borrow the force of heaven and earth. Profound meanings are a part of the force of heaven and earth. Similarly, I can borrow the force of heaven and earth to see some secrets. It is normal. Astro Emperor's words were so mysterious that Lu Li was not entirely convinced. If Astro Emperor could really see the secrets of heaven, then it would be horrifying. Nothing in the world could escape his eyes. He could infer everything. In that case, he would always be invincible, and he could pursue fortune and avoid misfortune. No wonder he could be the first among the Purgatory's top 10. Lu Li had many questions and doubts, but he had to admit that Astro Emperor was impressive. He no longer had any doubts about Star Emperor. After all, the Purgatory's 10 elders have been famous for a long time. Star Emperor had been in the 9 realms for many years, so there was no need to doubt his identity. Pondering for a moment, he suddenly stood up solemnly and bowed deeply to Star Emperor. Star Emperor, may I ask you to tell my fortune? Help me find someone? If you can help me, I'll do whatever you want as long as it's within my means. Astro Emperor stroked his beard with a smile. After a pause, he said, You want to know where your sister is, right? That's right. Luli was no longer surprised by Astro Emperor's ability to foresee the future. Astro Emperor knew so many secrets. Naturally, it was easy for Astro Emperor to figure out Lu Ling's whereabouts. He didn't say any more polite words and just bowed deeply again. Searching for a person's whereabouts isn't a big deal, and it won't result in a backlash from the heavens because of the divination of heaven's secrets. Astro Emperor said, but soon he changed his tone, but I don't think your sister is in the heaven reverse universe right now. It will be exhausting to figure out her whereabouts. If she is too far away, my life will be consumed. So, you must promise me one thing. Say it. Luli was a bit excited, but he didn't dislike Astro Emperor. As long as Astro Emperor could track down Lu Ling, Luli wouldn't say no even if he could do 100 things, let alone one. It's not the right time yet, Astro Emperor said mysteriously. In the future, when I need it, I will come to you. I just hope that you will not go back on your word. Of course not, Luli said with determination. If Astro Emperor doesn't trust me, I can take an almighty oath. No need. I trust you. Astro Emperor walked to the cabin. He waved his hand without looking back and said, I need some time. You go ahead. Luli bowed to see Astro Emperor off. He was not in a mood to sit down anymore. He paced up and down in the pavilion. Blood Emperor didn't say anything. He drank his tea with a smile. After Luli walked around for a dozen times, Blood Emperor finally said, Luli, don't worry. I know Astro Emperor well. He will do what he promised. I think he will find out where your sister is soon. Blood Emperor's words made Luli even more anxious. For him, Lu Ling was everything. If he could find Lu Ling, he would do whatever it took. Time passed bit by bit. 2 hours later, Star Emperor walked out of the thatched hut. He looked tired, and his face was a little pale. Luli walked over and tried to help Astro Emperor. Astro Emperor waved his hand, indicating that he was not that fragile. Luli sat down in the pavilion under the tree and poured Astro Emperor a cup of tea. Astro Emperor drank it and closed his eyes to rest for a while before he said, I can't find her. Luli was filled with hope. Now, he was disappointed. Naturally, he looked awful. That being said, Luli did not say anything harsh. Instead, he said gratefully, Astro Emperor, thank you. What I promised you just now still stands. Ha. Astro Emperor and Blood Emperor looked at each other. Both were impressed. Luli was a good person and deserved to be acknowledged. There are powerful warriors around your sister, or where she is that is protected by powerful formations. That is why I cannot find her, Blood Emperor explained. Then he looked into the sky and said with certainty, but I am sure that your sister is in the divinity. What? Luli was surprised, but he was excited. He had known that Lu Ling was in the divinity. Now that Astro Emperor was so sure, Lu Ling must be in the divinity. Astro Emperor thought about it for a while and said solemnly, I can sense something. It may not be accurate, but it may be helpful for you to find her in the divinity. Please enlighten me. This time, Luli was excited. The more clues he had, the more hope he would have. Without any clues, he would be in the dark even if he went to the divinity. He would not know where to start. Astro Emperor took a sip of tea and added, I can vaguely see the word "I" at the gate of a huge castle. That should be the name of a major force. You can look into it when you go to the divinity. Any force with the word "I" in it. Well, this force is very big. I think it enjoys a high status in the divinity. Luli committed Astro Emperor's words to memory. Still, his mind was weighed down. There were so many forces in the divinity. It would be difficult to find out which force Lu Ling was in based on the word "I." Chapter 1166. Luli bid farewell to the Blood Emperor after half a day. After all, he still had a lot of things to do. He didn't know what was going on in the 9 realms, so he was a little worried. Blood Emperor didn't ask him to stay. He only said that he could visit him when he had the time. Luli remembered the Blood Emperor's intention to befriend him. What was more, Luli was indebted to the Blood Emperor. Naturally, Luli was willing to make friends with this old friend. Before he left, Astro Emperor said something that stunned Luli. Astro Emperor said, if he was right, in 1 year and 8 months, Luli would ascend to the divinity. He told Luli to work hard and conquer a large piece of land in the divinity, so that his descendants who ascended to the divinity could have a chance to live under his protection. Luli didn't pay much attention to the art of 8 trigrams, but this time, he was shocked by Astro Emperor. This made him skeptical about the theory of fate. Was it really as Star Emperor said? If one wanted to go against the heavens could sense everyone's fate, and a strong could also borrow the power of heaven and earth to spy on the heaven secrets. If he really ascended in 1 year and 8 months, he would be completely convinced by Star Emperor. A person who could even predict when he would ascend was no different from a god. In fact, many gods were inferior to him. Leaving the Blood Emperor's residence, Luli decided to go to the entrance of the Prison of Thunder. He wanted to see if Little White could stand the thunderbolts in the Prison of Thunder. The Blood Emperor was not far away from the entrance to the Prison of Thunder. If the wicked bead flew at full speed, it would take him 1 day at most. However, the deaf Taoist was still tending to his wounds. Luli had to slow down. Safety first. Along the way, Luli finally arrived at the entrance to the Prison of Thunder after 2 days. He did not go up rashly. Instead, he appeared in the outer hall and said to the deaf Taoist who was healing his wounds, Deaf Taoist, I am at the entrance to the Prison of Thunder. Is there anything I should be aware of? The deaf Taoist's skin was still scorched, but his wounds had recovered. He opened his eyes and looked at Luli in confusion. Lord, why are you going to the Prison of Thunder? It's very dangerous there. Even if you're wearing God artifact armor, you might not be completely safe. Don't worry, I'll just watch from the entrance. I won't take any risks, Luli shrugged. The deaf Taoist was relieved. He thought about it and said, I will take you up. The gravity on the towering mountain in the Prison of Thunder is very strong. Lord, I don't think you can go up yet. All right, Luli nodded and asked, do you want to rest for a few more days? Everything's fine now. The deaf Taoist answered casually, it is just a flesh wound. My body recovers quickly. The magical beasts of the demon region don't have many other abilities, but their bodies are strong. Since the deaf Taoist had said so, Luli did not mind. He brought the deaf Taoist out of the wicked bead. The deaf Taoist grabbed Luli with one hand and walked toward the path. As soon as he stepped onto the path, Luli felt like he was being pressed down by a mountain. Even with his strong body, he seemed to be unable to stand it. Burning Blood Divine Skill. Luli released the Burning Blood skill to strengthen his physical body. The deaf Taoist threw Luli a look, but did not say anything. The deaf Taoist took Luli and rushed on. Luli had to admit that the deaf Taoist's physical body was strong. He carried Luli halfway up the mountain before he could no longer stand the gravity and had to transform. The deaf Taoist sped up after the transformation. He carried Luli all the way to the top. When they were about to reach the top, Luli could no longer move. The gravity here was horrifying. He would not be able to go up to the Prison of Thunder unless he was at the peak of the semi-god realm. After the time for 2 incense sticks to burn, the deaf Taoist finally took the last step. Many wounds on his body had opened up. He was grimacing in pain. He was a tough guy, and he said nothing. Buzzing. Luli had already released the relic armor. The wicked bead glowed. He could go in at any time. After a glare, he appeared at the peak of a small mountain. What he saw was a desert, a scorched land. There were no flowers, trees, or any signs of living beings. There wasn't even Xian-Chi in heaven and earth. It was like a dead land. Boom, 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 boom. Before Luli could look around, he heard a clap of thunder. He looked up and saw something that he would never forget. In the distance, the sky was filled with thunderbolts. It was not raining, and there were no clouds. However, from the sky above, thunderbolts were striking down, intertwining in the air like dragons of thunder. Purple thunderbolts, white thunderbolts, black thunderbolts, silver thunderbolts, golden thunderbolts, all kinds of thunderbolts were intertwining in the sky. In the distance, the sky had turned into an ocean of thunderbolts. Luli did not know how far away he was. but he could feel the violent and horrifying energy. Luli's hair stood on end, and his heart sank. Can a human go through that ocean of thunderbolts? Luli asked himself. Given his current abilities, he did not even have the courage to get close, let alone go through that ocean of thunderbolts. Swish, all of a sudden, a bolt of silver thunderbolt appeared in the sky. Before Luli could react, the deaf Taoist had grabbed him and dashed to the side. Bang! The thunderbolt landed nearby and disappeared into the mountain. Luli sensed it and frowned. I don't think the thunderbolts are that strong. That is the weakest type of thunderbolts. The deaf Taoist explained, there are 5 types of thunderbolts in the prison of thunder. Silver thunderbolts are the weakest, followed by white, purple, gold, and black thunderbolts. Black thunderbolts are the most horrifying. Even if I'm struck by them, I will be killed instantly. But the entrance to the towering mountain is filled with black thunderbolts. Luli did not know that thunderbolts could have different strengths. Soon his eyes glowed. The wicked bee glowed as Little White appeared in his hand. Luli said to the ocean of thunderbolts in the distance, Little White, this is the prison of thunder. There are 5 types of thunderbolts here. Black thunderbolts are the strongest, followed by gold, purple, white, and silver thunderbolts. Try and see if you can stand the silver thunderbolts. If you can cultivate here. What? The deaf Taoist blinked and looked at Little White with doubt. This little guy did not seem strong. Was it sure that it could stand the thunderbolts in the prison of thunder? Squeak, squeak, Little White's eyes glowed as soon as it saw the ocean of thunderbolts. If it were not for Luli's words, Little White would have dashed toward the ocean of thunderbolts. Swish! Right at that moment, 2 thunderbolts came down from the sky nearby. One was white and the other was silver. Holding his breath, Luli said, Little White, try and see if you can stand it. Do not force yourself. Squeak, squeak. Whitey proudly raised its head and called out. Then, it rushed into the sky and charged towards the silver lightning. Luli had forgotten to dodge to the sides. He kept his eyes on Little White. If Little White could not stand it, it would be blasted to death by the thunderbolts. Boom! Little White was struck by the silver thunderbolts in midair. It was smashed down. Its white fur was burned off, and black smoke rose from its body. Little White rolled around on the ground. There was a faint smell of burnt flesh. Phew, phew. Chapter 1167. Luli did not move. The deaf Taoist had moved Luli away in time, or else he would have been struck by a white thunderbolt. Since Luli was wearing a relic armor, he might not be killed, but he would suffer. Squeak, squeak, Little White rolled around on the ground and then flew towards Luli. It jumped onto Luli's shoulder and nodded its head, indicating that it could take it. This little beast is so powerful. The deaf Taoist could not help but say. The little beast did not seem to be strong. It did not even have the chi and energy of a beast king. Yet, it could stand the horrifying thunderbolts. Even a soul formation early-stage cultivator would not be able to withstand this lightning and would probably be blasted to smithereens. Little White must have been struck by lightning so many times that its resistance is strong, right? Luli thought to himself. As a matter of fact, Little White's defense was not strong, much weaker than that of the dragon demon. It was just that Little White had been struck by thunderbolts for a long time that gave it some resistance. Of course, Whitey had not stopped tempering its body in the past few years, so its physical body had probably become much stronger. There was another flash of lightning in the sky. Little White looked up and flew away from Luli towards another bolt of silver lightning not far away. Boom! Whitey was blasted down again. There was still the smell of burnt meat coming from its body, but it seemed to be fine. Its recovery ability was very strong. As long as it didn't recklessly touch the purple, gold, and black lightning, it should be fine. Luli flew up, took out his relic weapon, and dug a small cave in a nearby hill. After that, he took out some soul crystals and placed them in the cave. He instructed Xiao by, if your injuries are too severe, rest in the cave and eat some soul crystals to recover. After some thoughts, Luli took out a jade talisman and put it in a corner of the cave. He said, "If you cannot stand it any longer, bite the jade talisman and I will come and get you." Squeak, squeak, Little White nodded and reached out its paw to grab Luli reluctantly. It seemed that it didn't want Luli to leave. "All right." Luli thought about it and said, "I will stay here with you for 2 days. Go and cultivate." Luli took out the wicked bead and went in with the deaf Taoist. They cultivated in the cave. Little White cried out happily, then rushed out excitedly, looking for lightning everywhere. Even though Luli was in the wicked bead, he was still worried about Little White. He kept his psychic power on it. After confirming that it was only looking for the silver lightning and not daring to touch the white lightning, he felt relieved. They were in the outer area, where there were only silver and white lightning, and it wasn't very dense. After a couple of hours, there were no more purple, golden, or black thunderbolts. Luli was relieved. After staying outside for half a day, Little White entered the cave and swallowed a dozen soul crystals before closing its eyes to rest. After cultivating for 2 hours, its injuries were completely healed, and it rushed out excitedly. After staying here for 2 days, Xiaobai was sure that nothing would happen to her unless an expert entered the Thunder Prison. Luli asked the deaf Taoist and learned that no one would come to the Prison of Thunder in the near future. Luli went to the Prison of Soul. Luli flew downward without encountering any more dangers. After over a dozen days, he returned to the Prison of Gold. Luli didn't see Chen Tianxian at the foot of the towering mountain. Chen Jin was still waiting at the entrance of Mt Tong Tian. However, there was another person, Lu Feng. "Greetings, my lord." Seeing Luli coming down, Chen Jin and Lu Feng bowed to him with respect with enthusiasm. Blazing Hua had not come back yet. He must still be working on the strange flames. "Where is Chen Tianxian?" Luli was unhappy. He told Chen Jin that Chen Tianxian should wait for him here. How dare Chen Tianxian disobey him? Was he tired of living? "My lord, can I have a word with you?" Seeing that Luli was not happy, Chen Jin moved closer with a smile. Luli took out the wicked bead and showed Chen Jin to the inner hall. Chen Jin was hesitant to speak when he saw the deaf Taoist, Lu Ren Huang, and Patriarch Yi. "Get to the point." Luli took a look. Chen Jin knew that they must be on Lu Li's side. Chen Jin bowed and said, "My lord, Great-Grandpa is in a small world right now. He is opening up a passageway to the divine imperial universe. I think he will be able to open it in a month or 2 at most." Luli was surprised. The 3 passageways to the divine imperial universe were sealed. It was said that it would take at least 10 years to open up the passageways. Luli had been worried about this. How could he not be shocked when he received such a piece of news upon his return to the Prison of Gold? "Are you sure?" Luli stared at Chen Jin coldly. He knew that Chen Jin would not lie to him about this. That being said, he was still doubtful. The deaf Taoist's eyes glowed. He asked with a frown, "Has Chen Tianxian found a small world in a spatial crack in the divine imperial universe?" "Yes," Chen Jin said with certainty. "Great-Grandpa has found an entrance to a small world, and he has gone in quietly. He has taken control of the small world and is opening up a passageway to the divine imperial universe." "That is good." The deaf Taoist nodded with appreciation. Chen Tianxian knows how to do things. Small worlds like this are usually top secret, and there are warriors of the Yin family in charge. He must have done a good job to take control of them without anyone knowing. Luli was confused. "Deaf Taoist, how come it takes so much time to open up a passageway from a small world? How come it takes 10 years to open up a passageway from the Prison of Gold?" Seeing that Luli did not understand, the deaf Taoist took out a piece of paper and began to draw on it. First, he drew a straight line in the middle of the paper and said, "Lord, this piece of paper is the space we are in. This straight line is the purgatory of primordial chaos." "Yes." Luli was interested. He nodded and said, "Go on." "This is the Prison of Gold." The deaf Taoist pointed at the center of the straight line and then drew several circles nearby. "There are several universes near the Prison of Gold. They're the 9 universes. The Heaven Reverse universe is next to the purgatory of primordial chaos as well, but at the bottom, the Paleobeast realm is here. The deaf Taoist drew some circles around a straight line. In Lu Li's mind, the layout of the world became clear. There were many universes nearby, but not many could lead to the purgatory of primordial chaos directly. Universes had different sizes as well. The larger the universe was, the more stable the space would be, and the more difficult it would be to break down spatial barriers. The purgatory of primordial chaos was a miraculous space. To break down spatial barriers from the space of primordial chaos was difficult. What was more, the divine imperial universe had formation sealed off. It was understandable that it would take 10 years. There were 2 kinds of small worlds. One was the small worlds next to universes. These small worlds and universes were next to each other. Often, there would be passages connecting them. For example, there were many passages connecting the deserted world to the Heaven Reverse universe. But for the small worlds next to the divine imperial universe, it would be equally difficult to enter the divine imperial universe. To do so, the spatial barriers of the divine imperial universe must be broken down. The divine imperial universe was vast, and the space was stable. It would take several years to break down the spatial barriers. The other kind was the small worlds formed in the cracks in space. These small worlds existed in universes. There would be more passages connecting them. It would be easier to break down the spatial barriers, because Chapter 1168. After the deaf Taoist's explanation, Lu Li had a clear and direct view of the space nearby. The purgatory of primordial chaos was like a pillar connecting the sky and the earth. Around the pillar were bubble-like surfaces. Some of the surfaces were big, some were small, and they were close to each other. In between the big bubbles, there were some small bubbles. Those were small worlds. Inside some of the big bubbles were small bubbles. Countless bubbles formed the space around here. Apart from these known realms, are there still countless other realms? Are there more purgatory of primordial chaos in the further space? Lu Li had a question. He had an image. There were many bubbles outside the purgatory of primordial chaos, and those bubbles were surrounding the purgatory of primordial chaos. In the distance, there were many more purgatory of primordial chaos. Around each purgatory of primordial chaos were many universes. It was as if there were many stone pillars in the sky, and next to the pillars were bubble-like surfaces. Let's go. Lu Li waved his hand. It was pointless to think about this. Maybe, when he reached a certain height in the divinity, many secrets would be revealed. After he left with Chunjin, Lu Li said to Chunjin, "Send a message and ask someone to wait for Blazing Hoi here." Lu Li was about to leave, and Lu Li didn't even talk to him. Lu Feng was getting impatient. Looking at Lu Li with eager eyes, Lu Feng said, "Lord, what can I do for you? Please tell me. I promise that I will complete the task." "That is not necessary." Lu Li waved his hand. "Off you go. I don't need you for now." Lu Feng had been selling information for a profit. Who could tell if he was related to the Yin family? Lu Li did not trust him. Lu Feng wanted to say something, but Lu Li threw him a cold glance. Lu Feng cupped his fists with respect and dashed toward the entrance of the Prison of Wind. Soon, he vanished from the towering mountain. Chunjin crushed the jade talisman. Not long afterward, a semi-god realm warrior came from a distance. Chunjin told Lu Li to wait here, and that Blazing Hoi would take him to that small world. Whoosh! Lu Li brought Chunjin into the wicked bead. Soon, the wicked bead flew away and vanished into the horizon. The entrance to that small world was at the Central Imperial Universe. Lu Li and Chunjin went there and then entered the City of Chaos. "Greetings, Lord Lu. Greetings, young Master Jin." The City of Chaos was filled with people of the Chun family. When Lu Li and Chunjin showed up, they bowed at once. Behind them, the warriors dropped to their knees. Lu Li waved his hand and looked at the City of Chaos with mixed feelings. Back then, he was almost killed in the City of Chaos. In the Central Imperial Universe, he was despised by everyone. It was a pity that he was treated with such courtesy upon his return to the central imperial universe. I'll go to the crippled sky valley to take a look, Luli said and flew away in the wicked bead. The Zen mountain was not far away. Even though Yin Xingxi and the crippled Zen master had left, Luli still wanted to go and have a look. In just an hour, Luli was standing in the Zen valley. The scenery in the crippled sky valley was still the same. The wooden house was still there. No one dared to occupy this place. After all, the crippled Zen master and Yin Xingxi hadn't left for long. Who knew when they would come back? Standing in front of the cabin, a beautiful face appeared in Luli's mind, along with her empty eyes. If there was nothing wrong with Yin Xingxi's eyes, Luli believed that she would be more beautiful than Jimeng Tian and could even be compared with Lu Ling. The scenery was the same, but the beauty was gone. Luli stood in the valley for an hour. Then, he went back to the city of chaos and teleported away with Qinjin. They teleported for an entire day. Led by Qinjin, Luli entered a small world. Qinjin didn't intend to stop. After flying for half a day, they entered another passageway and entered another small world. This is it. Inside the small world, Qinjin reported, "This small world is called the region of flowers. It used to be the backyard of a young master of the Yin family. This young master built many palaces here and kept hundreds of beauties. The Yin family ordered to destroy all passageways to small worlds. However, this young master didn't want to let go of this place, so he secretly kept it. When a spy in our family found out, my great-grandpa took over this place. But that young master was smart enough to destroy the passageway in time. Otherwise, we could have entered the divine imperial universe directly." Region of flowers, Luli smiled. The scenery in this small world was nice. The Xianqi in heaven and earth was not rich, but it was okay. This young master knew how to enjoy himself. Soon, they arrived at the center of the region of flowers, a small city. Luli used psychic power to detect a palace in the middle of a sea of flowers outside the city. Boom, 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 boom. From a distance came some noises. Luli could faintly see that space was trembling. Chun Tianxian must be breaking down spatial barriers. "Lord, do you want to take a rest?" Qinjin politely invited Luli to sit in the palace. He put on a smile that all men understood and said, "That young master of the Yin family has good taste. He has many beauties in his harem. Lord, if you want to enjoy them, I can arrange it." Luli used psychic power to check the palace in the sea of flowers. Indeed, the palace was filled with beauties. Even the maids were good-looking. Some of the ladies in the palaces were as beautiful as Ji Mingyao. Each of them had their own charm. Never mind. Luli was not in the mood to enjoy the beauties. He didn't like to communicate without feelings. He was not a man who would do whatever he saw. If he wanted to do whatever he wanted in the Heaven Reverse universe, he could just curl his fingers and many beautiful young ladies from major families would swarm toward him. He flew toward Chun Tianxian. When he arrived, he noticed that Chun Tianxian was not the only one. Two warriors at the peak of the semi-god realm were attacking as well. The passageway was taking shape. "Lord," Chun Tianxian did not stop. He nodded to Luli and said, "Please forgive me for not being able to bow to you. It's okay." Luli never cared about empty formalities. He gave Chun Tianxian a few glances and said with appreciation, "Chun Tianxian, you have done a good job. If we can take down the divine imperial city, you will have made a great contribution. The deal we made years ago will be effective immediately." "Thank you, Lord." Chun Tianxian was overjoyed. If the divine imperial city was taken down, Lu Li would return his freedom. Chun Tianxian had been with Lu Li for a long time. Lu Li had always been a man of his word. How could Chun Tianxian not be happy? Buzzing, Lu Li let Lu Ren Wang, the deaf Taoist, Patriarch Yi, and He out in case they would be bored in there. The deaf Taoist's wounds were healed. He joined the team to attack the passageway without hesitation. Okay. Chun Tianxian's confidence was boosted by the deaf Taoist's participation. After a while, Chun Tianxian said, "Lord, please take a seat." In a month at most, the passageway will be open. Then we can fight our way into the divine imperial universe. Lu Renhuang looked at Chun Tianxian and the others and asked Lu Li with concern. Lu Li, are you sure you can break down the divine imperial city? Also, will you offend Yin Tiangang? Lu Renhuang was not fond of asking about the outside world, but that did not mean that he knew nothing. He knew something about the Yin family, especially since Yin Tiangang was a mighty warrior in the divinity. Inevitably, he was worried. Chapter 1169. The moment Yin Zhen was killed, Lu Li and Yin Tiangang had come to an irreconcilable end. Whether Lu Li could destroy the Yin family or not, Yin Tiangang would try every means to hunt him down when he ascended to the divinity. The Heaven Reverse universe was weak. Lu Renhuang was strong, but he was not as strong as the warriors in the 9 universes. What if Lu Renhuang ascended to the divinity as well? Who would protect the Lu family? The Lu family was too weak to be compared with the major families in the 9 universes. At the very least, the major families had their own ancestral lands. Even if they were destroyed temporarily, they could come back in hundreds of years. The Lu family had many top-level mystical materials and a large number of disciples. The Lu family could produce more talents and powerful warriors. Lu family, Yi family, Kong family, and Jiang family were in the prison of wood. It seemed that warriors of the 9 universes could not go in, but who could say for sure? What if they coerced warriors of the Paleobeast realm into going to the prison of wood for a massacre? There were too many uncertainties. Before Lu Li ascended to the divinity, he wanted to give the Lu family a stable background and an environment of absolute safety. He must break into the divine imperial city and destroy the Yin family. Otherwise, as soon as he ascended to the divinity, the Yin family would try to destroy the Lu family. They would kill everyone in the Lu family, capture Jiang Qiling by Qiu Xue and by Xiaoshuang alive, and even rape them. Lu Li would not allow that to happen. He would rather not ascend to the divinity before he could settle the Lu family down. For a month, Lu Li began to cultivate. Lu Renhuang did not cultivate. He observed with curiosity as the others opened up the passageway. He wanted to learn a thing or two. 10 days later, Blazing Hua came and joined the team. They were working faster. In 20 days at most, the passageway could be opened up. Blazing Hua, the Deaf Taoist, and Chun Tianxian were all powerful. But they had become Lu Li's soul slaves. Lu Renhuang exclaimed and felt proud. 20 days later, a huge passageway came into being. Chun Tianxian, the Deaf Taoist, and Blazing Hua looked at each other and dashed into the passageway at once. Soon, they vanished. Bang! A moment later, a jade talisman in Chun Jin's hand cracked. Chun Jin was overjoyed. Lord Renhuang, please tell young Master Li that the passageway is open. Great-grandpa has taken over. All right. Lu Renhuang slapped the wicked bead. A moment later, Lu Li came out from the wicked bead. He was overjoyed to see that the passageway was open. Let's go in. After flying a few steps, he looked at the 2-peak soul formation cultivators of the Chun family and said, I'll have to trouble the 2 of you to guard the exit. You must ensure that the myriad flower realm is in your hands. Rest assured, young Master Li. The 2-peak soul formation cultivators patted their chests and guaranteed, unless we die, the myriad flower realm will definitely not be lost. Lu Li flew out with Lu Renhuang. After a glare, they appeared in a mountain range. There were many warriors and some powerful warriors nearby. However, they were suppressed by the Deaf Taoist, Blazing Hua, and Chun Tianxian. Many had been killed. Chun Tianxian, how dare you to attack the divine imperial universe? Are you trying to start a war between the central imperial universe and the divine imperial universe? Old Devil Chun, if you dare to kill someone from our family, the Yin family will definitely not let you off. The old ancestor, Heavenly Dipper, will help us get justice. A few old men roared angrily. They were obviously not from the Yin clan, but from a large clan nearby. Of course, Any family in the divine imperial universe would be affiliated to the Yin family. Kill them all. Luli waved his hand coldly. Blazing Wood did not use his full strength. He used his most powerful move at once. Lotuses and lanterns flew out. Many warriors were burned into ashes. There were no powerful warriors here, only some average semi-god realm warriors. How strong were the Deaf Taoist and Chun Tianxian? Lu Ren Wang and Lu Li didn't even have to do anything. Soon they were all killed. They are from the nearby Gu family. Chun Tianxian flew over and explained, "It has been a long time since the passageway was opened. This place may seem remote, but now that the Gu family knows, the Yin family must know as well." Oh, Lu Li rubbed his eyebrows. He agreed with Chun Tianxian. Since the Gu family was aware of the situation, they would report it. Not a single powerful warrior from the Yin family came. Most of the Yin family disciples and powerful warriors must have entered the divine imperial city. Let's go. Let's get some information in the city. Lu Li waved his hand and said to Blazing Hua, "Stay here and guard the passageway. Later, I will send someone to inform you." Lu Li turned to He Yu and said, "You stay here as well. Send out subsidiary bodies to the entire divine imperial universe." Lu Li flew into the distance with Lu Ren Wang, Chun Tianxian, Patriarch Yi, and the Deaf Taoist. Soon, they found a small city. Lu Li decided to send Patriarch Yi to gather some information. After all, Patriarch Yi was only at the Earth Immortal Realm and would not stand out. Patriarch Yi was gone for an hour. When he came back, he looked awful. He sighed and reported, "The Yin family has been aware of the situation for a long time. Almost all of the Yin family disciples have entered the divine imperial city, so have many elite disciples of the affiliated families. Half a month ago, the formation of the divine imperial city was activated." Oh, Lu Li's mind was weighed down. He had thought that he could launch a sneak attack and take over the divine imperial city directly. He did not expect that the Yin family would react so quickly. Lu Li thought for a while and asked Chun Tianxian, "How many semi-god realm warriors are there in the central imperial universe?" Chun Tianxian did some calculations and said, "Chun family, the affiliated families, and the semi-god realm warriors from the central imperial universe that have come to our side, about 30 in total. Get them all here." Lu Li waved his hand and said, "Do not be afraid. Nobody will dare to do anything to the central imperial universe when we take action." That is true. Chun Tianxian believed this as well. Even though the passageways to the divine imperial universe have been destroyed, there must be spies in the families. As soon as Lu Li took action, those spies would send messages to the families, and the news would be spread across the 9 universes. Who would dare to do anything now that Lu Li was invading the divine imperial city? Everyone would be in a state of panic. If Lu Li was enraged, that family would be wiped out in an instant. Chun Tianxian thought about it and said, "Young Master Li, some families did not invade the Heaven Reverse universe last time, and they all hold a grudge against the Yin family. How about we gather the powerful warriors of those families and attack together?" "Sure." Lu Li nodded. He turned to Blazing Hua and said, "Blazing Hua, go and gather the powerful warriors of the Hua family. We will take down the divine imperial city, and everyone will be rewarded." Okay. Blazing Hua was overjoyed. If Lu Li could gather the powerful warriors of the Hua family, the Hua family would be on the same side. Whether or not they could take down the divine imperial city, at the very least, Lu Li would not trouble the Hua family. "Lord, I will send a message as well." The Deaf Taoist added, "I will send a message to the purgatory of primordial chaos. Some warriors have a grudge against the Yin family. Tell them to come and attack together." "Sure, they can all come." Lu Li waved his hand and said, "Apart from the Jun family, any family that holds a grudge against the Yin family can come and attack the divine imperial city. If you do a good job, I will write off all your old scores." Chapter 1170. Chun Tianxian, the Deaf Taoist, and Blazing Hua all came to deliver Lu Li's order. This time, Lu Feng could be of use. He was thrilled to hear that he would help Luli. In 10 days, the news reached all the families in the 9 universes and the purgatory of primordial chaos. The 9 universes were in an uproar, and the purgatory of primordial chaos was in turmoil. Luli was going to attack the divine imperial city. He had entered the divine imperial universe and announced to the world that anyone who helped would be rewarded once the divine imperial city was won. He could forget about the invasion of the heaven reverse universe. Many families did not care about rewards for everyone. Forgetting about the past was a reward. Many families were in a state of panic when they learned that Blazing Hua and the Deaf Taoist were working for Luli. Blazing Hua, the number 2 of the Purgatory's top 10, and the Deaf Taoist, the number 4, were working for Luli. In addition, Luli had killed Yinjun. Luli deserved to be the most powerful warrior in the 9 universes. Luli was cruel and merciless. How many of the semi-god realm warriors that invaded the heaven reverse universe came back? Many families were in a state of panic and did not know what to do. Some families had made up their minds. They were ready to give up their territories and go to their ancestral lands to seek refuge. When Lu Li's words were spread out, many families held meetings overnight. Eventually, many families responded. Li family was the first to respond, followed by the Ren family and the other families of the 5 smaller universes. In the purgatory of primordial chaos, Feng Aoshue and his wife went to the prison of ice. Blood Emperor and Astral Emperor did not take action, but they sent a message to some semi-god realm warriors to help Lu Li. All the semi-god realm warriors of the Hippocampus universe were mobilized. Blazing Hua of the Hua family came in person, and Lu Li called for help. Many powerful warriors swarmed over. After all, this was a matter of great importance. They might as well join the fun. Jun Hongye was the most frustrated. Lu Li said that apart from the Jun family, all the other families could come. In other words, Lu Li was still holding a grudge against Jun Hongye and would settle scores with the Jun family. Of course, many powerful warriors did come, but they were still worried. The divine imperial city was too strong. If they could not break the divine imperial city, then they would offend the Yin family. Afterward, the Yin family would seek revenge. Even if the divine imperial city was breached, what if Yin Tiangang could come back from the divinity? That would be the end. However, many people thought that if they didn't help Lu Li, they would definitely be punished. If the divine imperial city could not be breached, then the grudge against the Yin family would not be too great. In a way, the Yin family could say that they were forced by Lu Li. The Yin family could not go against the entire 9 universes by themselves. If the divine imperial city was breached, the Yin family would be wiped out. Given Lu Li's determination, he would break open the Yin family's ancestral land as well and wipe out the entire Yin family. As for Yin Tiangang, many clans were not that afraid of him. Yin Tiangang had been in the divine world for hundreds of thousands of years and had never come back. Since he couldn't come back for hundreds of thousands of years, it would be hard for him to come back in the future. Long pain or short pain, an absolute calamity or a possible calamity, many families naturally knew how to choose. What was more, the divine imperial universe was rich. Even the affiliated families were wealthy. None of the families would go back empty-handed after sweeping across the divine imperial universe. In half a month, 40 to 50 semi-god realm warriors had come in. Lu Li did not take any actions. He asked Blazing Hua and Chun Tianxian to take command. Lu Li decided to take complete control of the divine imperial city first. Teams of semi-god realm warriors flew away. The divine imperial universe was facing a catastrophe. The Yin family was known as the most powerful family in the 9 universes. They had always been arrogant and had offended many families. Now that the families had the chance to wreak havoc in the divine imperial city, they would not be soft-hearted. Lu Li didn't care what the families were going to do. He only gave 2 orders. First, no civilians were to be killed. Second, no women were to be raped. Apart from that, he didn't care. Lu Li once told Yin Jun that he would come to the divine imperial universe and kill all civilians. However, Given the current situation, he would not allow civilians to be killed. Civilians were innocent, and nobody had the right to take their lives. Groups of semi-god realm warriors came and left. Lu Li, Lu Renhuang, Blazing Hua, and the Deaf Taoist had been guarding here in case someone destroyed the passageway during the chaos. The passageway could be reopened, but it would take several months. Lu Li planned to let the semi-god realm warriors control the entire divine imperial universe, and then gather at the divine imperial city to attack together. More semi-god realm warriors were coming in. The number had reached 80, but Lu Li was not confident. Over the course of history, several immortals had attacked the divine imperial city, but all returned in failure. Even if he had 100 semi-god realm warriors with him, could they be as strong as immortals? Definitely not. Therefore, Lu Li had been cultivating. If he could become an immortal in a short time, he might have a better chance of breaching the divine imperial city. 5 days later, the number of semi-god realm warriors had reached over 90. Over the past 2 days, no more semi-god realm warriors had come. It seemed that all the semi-god realm warriors that should be here had arrived. Lu Li cultivated in the wicked bead and paid no attention to the outside world. The Deaf Taoist, Blazing Hua, and Chen Tianxian had a discussion. They asked for Lu Renhuang's opinion. In the end, they decided to send Blazing Hua to coordinate the overall situation in case the semi-god realm warriors that entered the divine imperial universe went out of control. The Deaf Taoist and Chen Tianxian stayed here. He used subsidiary bodies had covered more than half of the divine imperial universe. In half a month, they would be able to monitor the entire divine imperial universe. Lu Li made a last-minute effort, hoping to become an immortal at the critical moment. Unfortunately, the more he tried, the more impossible it was. He cultivated for a month with nothing to show for it. Another half a month later, Lu Li had to stop cultivating. It would be strange if he could make a breakthrough like this. He dashed out from the wicked bead and asked Yu, "Is the divine imperial universe under surveillance? How is the situation?" He nodded. Apart from the divine imperial city, everywhere else is under surveillance. The situation is good. Almost all the major cities have been conquered. Powerful warriors of the affiliated families of the Yin family have been killed, apart from those that have escaped to small worlds. But there are not many powerful warriors of the divine imperial universe left. They must have fled or gone to the divine imperial city. Okay. Lu Li turned to Chen Tianxian and asked, "Have you arranged everything?" Chen Tianxian nodded. "Yes. Now, we're just waiting for your orders." "Then listen to me." Lu Li waved his hand. "Send all the powerful warriors to the divine imperial city. Gather outside the city and wait. No mistakes. Father, let's go. Let's see what is so special about the divine imperial city." Lu Li turned to Lu Renhuang, who was looking forward to it as well. The divine imperial city was a relic. If the divine imperial city could be breached and the relic could be taken, the Lu family would enjoy eternal prosperity. Lu Li left Chen Tianxian to guard the passageway. He took Yu, the Deaf Taoist, Lu Renhuang, and Patriarch Yi into the wicked bead and flew toward the northwest. The wicked bead was some distance away from the divine imperial city, but at the top of the wicked bead, it would take them 2 or 3 days at most. After all, it would take time for the semi-god realm warriors to teleport over. I wonder if young Master Li can conquer the divine imperial city. Chen Tianxian watched the wicked bead fly away. He was filled with anticipation. Lu Li could kill Yin Zhen, who was wearing a relic armor. Maybe he could breach the divine imperial city as well. He was a man that could create miracles. Chapter 1171. The divine imperial city was located at the center of the divine imperial universe. Many civilians of the divine imperial universe called it the city where gods lived. The entire city was floating in the air. Looking from the distance, it looked like a city in the divinity, mysterious and sacred. The divine imperial city was black in color, square with a radius of 30 miles. It was a super city. Bathed in the sunlight, the city glowed, inspiring people to worship it. At the moment, the divine imperial city was glaring. The entire city was glowing in a dark light. It looked more like a city in the divinity, inspiring awe and awe at the same time. Whoosh, 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 from the distance came some noises. Warriors came from the sky. Soon, they gathered outside the divine imperial city. Not far away to the east and west of the divine imperial city were two large tribes. The people in the tribes stared at the powerful warriors in the sky in surprise. They did not look like warriors from the divine imperial universe. What were they doing in the divine imperial city? Were they going to attack the divine imperial city? Though the majority of the people in the tribes were civilians, the chiefs and patriarchs of the two tribes were knowledgeable. They recognized some of the powerful warriors in the group as the most powerful warriors in the 9 universes. Give me an order. All civilians, evacuate. The two chiefs were smart enough to order their civilians to evacuate at once. A group of powerful warriors had come to the divine imperial city in such a threatening manner. They were not here as guests. The divine imperial city had been closed. No one from the Yin family came out. Something big was about to happen. When immortals fought, mortals would suffer. The most powerful chiefs in the two tribes were merely at the eternal realm. Many civilians did not have any abilities to fight. Once they were hit by the shock waves of the powerful warriors, they would be crushed into pieces. Whoosh, 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 more and more powerful warriors came from all directions and gathered outside the divine imperial city. The chiefs and elders of the two tribes were frightened. They saw that many of their people were packing up the valuables in their homes and wanted to take away many valuable things. They were immediately infuriated. Why were they still dawdling at a time like this? Fortunately, the powerful warriors were just outside the city and did not attack. The divine imperial city was quiet as well. There was no time for a war to break out. The chiefs and patriarchs of the two tribes managed to stay calm. They prayed that the war would not break out. Otherwise, the two tribes would be flattened to the ground. Whoosh, whoosh, after more than half of the people of the two tribes left, there were 70 to 80 powerful warriors gathered outside the divine imperial city. All of them were so powerful that the people of the tribes could hardly breathe. Are they really going to attack the divine imperial city? Were they not afraid of heavenly goddess Yan's wrath? Send down divine punishment? With so many experts gathered here, it was clear that they were not here to play. Thinking back to the rumors that the Yin family's king, Yin Zhen, had been killed, Zhang Xian could not help but sigh. The two tribe leaders were terrified. They were from the divine imperial universe, and they had been worshipping Yin Tiangang. Naturally, they did not want the divine imperial universe to be breached. Sizzle. Not long after, a sharp air-piercing sound rang out from afar as a bead broke through the air. Next, a white-haired young man appeared in midair with a few other experts in tow. What happened next shocked the two chiefs and many patriarchs. The powerful warriors that were gathered outside the divine imperial city gathered around, bowed and shouted, "Lord Lu!" This, a chief and a few elders of the tribe looked at each other in disbelief. Many of the 70 or 80 elders here must have lived for more than 1,000 years. How come they were bowing to a white-haired young man? The young man seemed to be young. He must be in his 30s at most. Lord Lu? Is he the one who killed the Yin family patriarch? A patriarch murmured. The chief and the other patriarchs were taken aback. The chief yelled, "Go, go. Tell all the warriors to leave with their families. Leave everything behind." As soon as the chief gave the order, the tribe was thrown into chaos. The chief and the patriarchs stared at the young man in the sky as if he were a ghost. For the people of the tribe, the Yin family members were the descendants of gods. Yin Zhen, the Yin family patriarch, was the spokesperson of gods in the mortal world. However, he was killed by this white-haired young man. This young man was no different from a demon. Rise! The white-haired young man in the sky was Lu Li. He glanced at everyone. After Blazing Hua explained that there is no one from the Jun family here, Lu Li said, "Some of you have some misunderstandings with me in the past. From today on, I will let bygones be bygones. Let's work together and conquer the divine imperial city." By then, we will share the Yin family's wealth." "Thank you, Lord Lu," the warriors shouted again. Even though Lu Li was only in his 30s, they did not find it awkward to address him as Lord. This was the reality of the world. Age was not the only thing that mattered. If one's fist was strong enough, one would be the Lord. If one was not strong enough, one would have to yield no matter how old one was. "All right," Lu Li turned to Blazing Hua and said, "Tell the Yin family to come out and talk." Blazing Hua cleared his throat and shouted, "Who is in charge of the Yin family now? Come out." Blazing Hua used Xian energy to amplify his voice. His voice was earth-shattering, resounding through the clouds, and could be heard from thousands of miles away. Not far away, there were still people from 2 tribes who had not left. They collapsed to the ground because of the noise. As far as Lu Li could tell, the divine imperial city was a relic. The higher-ups of the Yin family must be in control, and everything outside must be monitored. Blazing Hua's words should be heard clearly. Lu Li was right. As a matter of fact, people outside could not see into the divine imperial city. On the city wall, there were many patriarchs of the Yin family. Through the shield, they could see everything and hear Blazing Hua's words. Yin Zhen was dead. The Yin family had chosen a new family patriarch. Yin Hu, the chief patriarch of the Yin family, was standing on the city wall as well. He thought for a moment. He held a jade talisman in his hand, which was the core to control the divine imperial city. Xian energy glowed in his hand as he said to the jade talisman, "I am Yin Hu, the current Yin family patriarch. Blazing Hua, Deaf Taoist, and all of you, why are you invading the divine imperial universe? Are you trying to make an enemy out of the Yin family? Think about it carefully. Do not be fooled by some people. My family patriarch has sent a message. In 100 years at most, he will become a super mighty warrior in the divinity. By then, he can go back to the heaven reverse universe. You must think about the consequences of making an enemy out of the Yin family." "What?" Yin Hu's words were sent to the outside of the divine imperial city through the jade talisman. All the warriors heard it. Many were taken aback. If Yin Tiangang did go back to the heaven reverse universe, then all the families that invaded the divine imperial universe would be destroyed. Yin Hu's words made many people want to retreat. Whether or not the divine imperial city could be breached, as long as Yin Tiangang could go back to the heaven reverse universe, then they would be in big trouble. Chapter 1172. Yin Hu's words made many give up. Lu Li remained calm, but inside, he was sneering. Yin Hu was taking advantage of the fact that they did not know about the divinity. He was trying to scare them off with words. Now that Yin Hu had spoken, Lu Li had to say something back. At the same time, he could put the Yin family down. Lu Li cleared his throat to attract everyone's attention. Then he asked, "Yin Hu, the new family patriarch of the Yin family, right? Do you know there's a list in the divinity? Do you know Yin Tiangong's ranking?" The divine imperial city was protected by a black shield. Those outside could not see anything in the divine imperial city, but Lu Li's words could be heard. The higher-ups of the Yin family were surprised. What did Lu Li mean by this? Many higher-ups of the Yin family did not know much about the divinity. All they knew was that Yin Tiangang was doing well in the divinity. Seeing that many powerful warriors of the Yin family and affiliated families were looking at him, Yin Hu said, "How can I not know about the list? My forefather is well known on the list. He is a well-known warrior in southern divinity." "Ha ha ha," Lu Li laughed. He did not disguise his sarcasm. "Your forefather is nothing in southern divinity. Do you really want to make your forefather proud? You don't know his ranking? Let me tell you. Your forefather is in the 80,000 and Emperor of Heaven Reverse is in the 70,000. Those who can make it to the top 100,000 are mighty warriors in the divinity. But to become a super mighty warrior in the divinity, you must be in the top 10,000. How long has it been since your forefather went to the divinity? He is only 80,000. To be in the top 10,000 and become a super mighty warrior in the divinity, he may not be able to cultivate for another 1 million years. Do you really think your forefather is somebody in southern divinity? He is just a patriarch in a town of the Black Dragon Mansion. The Black Dragon Mansion has over 1,000 patriarchs and over 400 town patriarchs. Of all the patriarchs, your forefather is in the bottom 10. He is at the bottom of the Black Dragon Mansion. Who are you trying to scare? Luli used Dragon Roar to amplify his voice. Not only could it be heard in an area with a radius of thousands of miles, but many people in the Divine Imperial City could hear their eardrums ringing. Actually, there were some things that Luli made up. For example, he didn't know the number of patriarchs of the Black Dragon Mansion, but he bet that Yin who didn't know either. Yin Tiangang was ranked around 80,000 on the Divine list. Logically speaking, he was not a high-level official in the Black Dragon Mansion. That was why he dared to make up a story and bet that Yin who would not dare to refute it. Wow, Luli's description was so convincing that it caused quite a sensation. Even the Divine Imperial City was talking about it. Yin Hu and a group of elders scanned the city with their divine will. They were secretly annoyed. If they had known this would happen, they would have activated the sound shield to prevent the sound from coming in. Of course, Yin Hu could not show weakness at this moment. He gritted his teeth and said, "Haha, what do you know? How much do you know about the divine realm?" Did he just listen to what the Honorable Heaven Reverse said, and he was just spouting nonsense? Every generation of the Yin clan's clan leaders have been able to contact the Patriarch and often listen to his teachings. The old ancestor told me, personally not long ago, how could it be wrong? Since all of you refuse to come to your senses, we'll deal with you one by one when Ancestor returns. Yin Hu resorted to the old method of bluffing and scaring. Those semi-god realm warriors would not take the risk. What if Yin Tiangang really came back? Even if he didn't, he would not try his best. The Divine Imperial City was strong. However, with so many people brainstorming, what if they could come up with a way to break the Divine Imperial City? Ha ha ha. Luli laughed again, which attracted many people's attention. Luli continued with a mocking tone. "I do know more about the divinity than you do. I am young, but I have killed 2 avatars of God of Wings. I worked with God of Barbarian and God of Sorcerer to fight against the allied forces of the 9 universes. I once fought against your old ancestor's avatar. I often chat with Emperor of Heaven Reverse, so I know the divinity like the back of my hand. I know that your family's old ancestor is a womanizer. He robbed hundreds of goddesses from the Black Dragon Manor, causing a lot of dissatisfaction in the Black Dragon Manor. Who knows, if he angered the higher-ups, he might just be killed with a single palm strike." Enough. Before Yin Hu could reply, Luli put on the relic armor and took out the relic weapon. Pointing at the Divine Imperial City, Luli said, "Yin Hu, look at this. This is the relic weapon and armor of the Yin family. Yin Jun is dead. Why are you still struggling? I will give you a chance. Open the Divine Imperial City and surrender. I promise you that I will not kill anyone. Or else, if we break the Divine Imperial City, we will kill everyone in there. None will be spared." Luli changed his tone. "People in the city, listen up. If anyone can help me open the city gate, not only will he be forgiven for all his crimes, but I will also give him the entire Divine Imperial Universe. If I break my promise, I will die a miserable death. I could take an almighty oath." What? As soon as Luli finished his words, the city was in chaos. Yin Hu and the higher-ups of the Yin family felt chills running down their spines. In the city, there were not only the powerful warriors of the Yin family, but also those of the affiliated families. If the affiliated families work together to ambush the Yin family and take control of the Divine Imperial City, the consequences would be unimaginable. Whoosh, 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 some semi-god realm warriors of the Yin family moved closer to Yin Hu at once. They used psychic power to check the city as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Luli's offer was too good. The Divine Imperial Universe was the largest and most prosperous of the 9 universes. Who would not be tempted? Many family patriarchs and family patriarchs of the affiliated families were displeased by the Yin family's attitude. Luli did not trust them. Inevitably, they would be hurt. Many would not do such a thing. However, after being provoked by the higher-ups of the Yin family, they began to have second thoughts, attack. Waving his hand, Luli shouted. "Whoever can open the divine imperial city, I will give the entire divine imperial universe to their family. I'm a man of my word." "Attack!" Blazing Hui yelled. Countless lotus lanterns emerged around him and smashed toward the divine imperial city. As soon as Blazing Hua took action, the powerful warriors of the Hua family and the hippocampus sector took action as well. Roar, roar! The deaf Taoist transformed. He had never done that in front of others before. Now that he was Lu Li's spiritual beast and his identity was exposed, he had nothing to worry about. He transformed into an ancient beast and smashed at the divine imperial city with a huge stone column. "Attack!" Chun family warriors yelled. The other semi-god realm warriors did not stay on the sidelines. Luli was watching from behind. Anyone that displeased him would be killed by him at once. "They are fighting. Run." Not far away, the chiefs of two tribes were frightened to see the Xian energy in the sky. The two chiefs had no time to worry about the small number of people in their tribes that had not left. They left with a group of patriarchs. With so many powerful warriors attacking, even the slightest shockwave could crush them into pieces. Boom, boom, boom. Chapter 1173. Boom, boom, boom. Nearly 100 semi-god realm warriors attacked together. It was a splendid scene. Every semi-god realm warrior had different ways of attacking. Some used bloodline skills, and some used profound meanings. Someone's attack was like a galaxy falling down. Some used meteorites, some used dragons of water, some used phantoms of strange beasts, and some used clones of people to smash at the city. It was a splendid scene. Luli used psychic power to check. Nobody was pretending. Everyone was doing their best. But the effect was not obvious. There was a black shield outside the divine imperial city that was shining in a dark light. Despite the number of attacks, the shield did not tremble at all. Instead, it was glowing brighter. Immortal's body go. Luli sent out the Immortal's body to attack the city. Unfortunately, the Immortal's body's attacks could not change the shield. The divine imperial city was like a sturdy shield, unbreakable and indestructible. Luli did not take any actions. He floated in the air, looking at the warriors calmly and supervising them. After a while, Lu Renhuang could not sit still anymore. He joined the attack. He released many icicles and smashed at the city like sharp swords. Time moved on. It had been more than 4 hours, and nothing had changed in the divine imperial city. Luli did not take any actions. He stayed in the rear and supervised the others. He could clearly feel that many people were slowing down and their attacks were weakening. Morale was declining. The first spurt of energy was followed by the second and the third. After all, attacking the divine imperial city could not bring direct benefits to some people. Many did not hold deep-seated hatred against the Yin family. Inevitably, the semi-god realm warriors were frustrated when nothing happened after such a long time. Not only those people, but even Luli was a bit frustrated. With so many semi-god realm warriors attacking an average city, they could have smashed it in one strike. The divine imperial city was known as the most powerful city in the 9 universes. Over the course of history, immortals had attacked the city and more than one. In the end, all of them returned in failure. How could they break a city that even immortals could not? Ha! Yin, whose mocking voice came from the city. Don't slack off. Keep up the attack. The divine imperial city has plenty of energy. You have been attacking for 500 years. I think the shield outside the city will be weakened a bit. In 2 or 3,000 years, the divine imperial city will be breached. Work hard. Yin, whose words weakened the morale of the people outside, even though they all knew that Yin who was exaggerating. That being said, the divine imperial city was strong and had been absorbing energy for hundreds of thousands of years. It would take hundreds of years for the city to be breached, continuously attacking for a few hundred years. Not to mention that some old monsters did not have much lifespan left. It was unknown whether they could live for another few hundred years. Even if they had enough lifespan, who would continuously bombard them for several hundred years? Even if he didn't die of exhaustion, he probably wouldn't be able to persevere in such a boring task for a few years, right? Ha ha ha. Luli laughed out loud and replied, Yinhu, don't think that you are so great just because the divine imperial city is a relic. Even though Yin Zhan was wearing a divine artifact battle armor, she was still killed by me. Recently, I have been studying inhibition formations, and I know a lot about them. Give me some time to study. Later, I will break the divine imperial city myself. Buzzing. Luli went back into the wicked bead and said, Guys, let's work harder and consume the energy of the divine imperial city. Later on, I will do it myself. I promise that the divine imperial city will be breached. By then, you will all be rewarded handsomely. Lu Li's words ignited a glimmer of hope. Yin Zhan was wearing a relic armor, and yet he was killed by Lu Li. This was an undeniable fact. Maybe Lu Li could really breach the divine imperial city. This time, Lu Li did not go to the inner hall. Instead, he went to the hall filled with books on inhibition formations. He decided to spend some time studying inhibition formations. He could not become an immortal anytime soon. Besides, even if he did become an immortal, would he be able to breach the divine imperial city? The tens of thousands of books in the hall were all about inhibition formations and divinities. Maybe there was a way to crack the divine imperial city. Deaf Taoist Blazing Hua. Lu Li sent another message. I will cultivate to study inhibition formations and divinities. You two, supervise the battle. If anyone is slacking or pretending to agree but secretly disobeys, you will deal with them. Many people felt chills running down their spines. Lu Li had placed 2 swords on their backs. Both of them were Lu Li's soul slaves, and they would carry out Lu Li's orders. If anyone dared to slack off, the 2 of them would kill without saying a word. At once, they gathered their spirits and kept on attacking. They had made up their minds to attack for several months so that Lu Li would not be able to say anything. Even if they could not breach the divine imperial city, they would not be blamed. Lu Li did not care about what was going on outside. He sent Hiyu over. She would alert him if anything happened. He began to read the books in the hall, trying to find a way to crack the divine imperial city. The divine imperial city must be breached. Lu Li must have the relic, the divine imperial city. This was the only way to ensure that when he went to the divinity, the Lu family would not have to worry about him. He browsed through the books quickly. In an afternoon, he found 3 books on cracking divinities. However, when he went through the books, he realized that he could not understand many of them. He did not know much about inhibition formations. He could not understand some of the professional jargon, let alone understand them. In other words, if he wanted to understand the 3 books, he must learn the basics of inhibition formations systematically. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to study the 3 books. Alas, Lu Li did not want to learn about inhibition formations. However, he had no other choice. He had nowhere else to go. He thought for a moment. After all, the Heaven Reverse universe and the prison of wood were safe. He had all the time in the world. He planned to spend a few months learning about inhibition formations systematically. Encyclopedia of Inhibition Formations. He took out a book of the lowest level and began to study with full attention, bit by bit. His soul was strong now. He had been consuming soul-nurturing elixirs all the time. His soul was growing stronger. The stronger a person's soul was, the more capable he would be in learning. Lu Li was a fast learner. He could understand many things at once. His learning progressed at a tremendous pace. Lu Li was fascinated as soon as he started. He realized that the study of inhibition formations was not boring at all. Many theories were similar to profound meanings. When warriors cultivated, they would start by refining their bodies and cultivating Xian energy. They would absorb energy from heaven and earth to strengthen themselves. Later on, to learn profound meanings, they would borrow energy from heaven and earth to release powerful attacks. Formations and restrictions were similar. The only difference was that low-level formations and restrictions relied on some miraculous formation patterns and natural oddities to release a powerful force. The high-level inhibition formations could also borrow energy from heaven and earth to form powerful attacks and defenses or to enhance warriors' abilities. At the end of the day, warriors' cultivation and inhibition formations were all about borrowing energy from heaven and earth to form miraculous abilities. Good. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.